Okay, no, we're good. Good.
What?
Yep, my CPU usage just rocketed up to 100 for a sec, and now we're good to go. Okay, so yeah,
Gotcha.
I mean, we had some good engagement on the Is Werewolf Liberal video. I think it's, as you said, it's more like 90s classic liberal than it
Yeah.
is, like a modern liberal.
The
But we
the
don't
the
need to,
kind of Democrat the kind of Democrat I could get behind on paper, but in practice the
yeah.
party fucking sucks. But
Back when they had actual values.
Mhm. We just started.
Yes, we are recording.
All right, here we are. This is the story that got me hooked on World of Darkness. I think this is what we're talking about today, the best piece of fiction in World of Darkness.
Yeah.
I say that with no hyperbole. You look at Werewolf, and we've had some good stories in Werewolf. I think the best one has been just the overall history of the Glasswalkers, and just the danger of horseshoe theory, that you go from being an extreme libertarian to an extreme authoritarian from one flip of a switch.
Yes.
And with the Salubri, this is as close as they get to Shakespeare when it comes to this writing.
Oh yeah. I mean, as it goes with horseshoe theory, like if in a tyrannical government, if you impose so many laws that not even the people who enforce them can follow them, it ultimately deteriorates into chaos. Meanwhile, if you have no rules whatsoever, eventually Darwinism will take over, and it's going to be the strongest person in the room making all the decisions, thus resurrecting
Resulting
tyranny.
in the City Father issue with the Glasswalkers and Cockroach having to step in and retake the clan under a new authoritarian image.
Yes, basically. I will say, though,
And-
I feel like this is going to be a very, very, very heavy history episode, given how long your notes for the Salubri is.
Oh yeah, I had to send Kyle 5 pages of notes I took.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I just
yeah.
had to do relationships and disciplines. I got it easy.
And you got a lot of context from that, from reading that section alone.
Yeah, and like and I know that the World of Darkness, especially all the clan books, all the tribe books, of course they're all unreliable, but I really love how they describe everything. They've got such a nobility to them that I really haven't seen from any other vampire clan.
You look with the Salubri, and every bit of information that we get about the Salubri comes from the Salubri. There's no outside source that talks about the Salubri because nobody is alive to talk about the Salubri as they were anymore. You have the Sabbat, where the Salubri today have joined the Sabbat with no regrets. I mean, granted, you look at their adversary, the Tremere, who joined the Camarilla, of course they would join the opposition. But at the same time, the Sabbat are evil as shit, and these guys are portrayed as saints, so that gives you pause. The Transylvania Chronicles, what Saulot does in that gives you pause. And then you look over at their disciplines. The Tremere said that these guys were soul-stealing vampires that were pretending to be these innocent little babies, but could overturn the entirety of the underworld in one night. And you think that's a lie, but then you read what Valerin does, and there is a little bit of truth to what they say.
Yeah, we'll get into what Valerin does later, but like the feud between the Tremere and the Salubri is really the bedrock of this Shakespearean epic.
Yeah, you know Clan Tremere, the most overpowered clan in Vampire?
Yes.
Next to the Lasombra and the Zamichi. They stole their powers from the Salubri.
Yes, and they didn't even do it as good.
Yeah, this resulted in a massive fuck-up for the Tremere.
Yep. Another thing that I noticed for my section of research that gave me pause, because I was always told that the Salubri were like the miracle workers of vampires. They aren't as bad as ever. They try to be good people, but just can't because vampirism. But they're buddies with the Zamichi, and the Zamichi are scary fuckers.
Yeah. The angelic vampires teaming up with the out-and-out devil vampires. I mean, we have the Clan Bali, but the guys who are making pacts with demons get out-demoned by the Zamichi.
Yeah, pretty much. It's really odd, but really interesting watching the Salubri in action. As far as how their allegiance, how their alignment shifts the further you dive into the story. And we've got a lot to cover, so I won't. So I don't think we can preface this any. We don't have time to preface it any further.
All right. And we are talking about Best Boy here. I posted his picture in history pages. I don't know who drew that fan art, but that's perfect. That is perfect. That is Saulot.
Yes.
That is a perfect representation of his character.
Yeah, he looks kind of funky looking.
He's got this saintly kind of demeanor to him, but you look at him, and there's just a little thing or two about Saulot that gives you pause, and makes you think: is this guy the saint that he says he is, or is he playing a long game? Is he doing what the Defiler Worm does, where the Defiler Worm makes you think it's on your side before it corrupts you?
Yeah.
We go into the story.
All right.
All right. Kyle, you're Jewish. You can tell me who Cain is.
Cain is, in the Old Testament, the first murderer. We talked a little bit about this during the Ravnos video. Cain bludgeoned Abel with a... He caved his head in with... Was it with a boulder or was it a shovel?
It was a boulder in the biblical story. In the Book of Nod supplement for Vampire, he stabs him through the chest with a stick.
Right. So it depends. If the biblical representation is he killed Abel with a rock, God cursed him to have to never be able to die.
And in the world of Vampire the Masquerade, it's a mixture of two motivations. You have Cain's jealousy towards Abel and his resentment towards God. We're never told why Cain's sacrifices aren't adequate for God, but the implication is that Cain isn't putting his all into his sacrifices. So he thinks about that. He says, what is my all? It's Abel. That's the guy I want to be. So if I'm going to sacrifice my all, I'm going to sacrifice my ideal self and destroy my ideal self. Therefore, one, there's nobody getting in my way of being the best, and two, this is the best if God wants my best, here's my best. So he kills Abel. God says, what in the world made you think that's what I meant? And then cursed Cain. You will seek death, but death will evade you. You will pray to die, but that day will never come. Cain becomes the first vampire, the strongest of all the vampires, the first immortal to walk the planet, where he will never die until the times of judgment. And if you were to take the story of Adam and Eve literally, he's still around in modern day.
Yeah, but where?
Yes.
Far beyond us.
He's a taxi driver in California, the last we saw him in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
I need to play that game. I have it on Steam. I just need to mod the shit out of it first.
That is the best game ever made.
Especially after some
really
quality life patches.
It honestly is up there with Deus Ex in terms of quality.
Yeah, another game that I have started and didn't finish.
It's because whenever you play immersive sims like that, you need to sit down with it for a while and play it.
Yeah, and I really don't have that kind of time, but I really wish I did.
The first city. Cain, after he quits being a farmer, goes off and becomes an architect. He becomes very good with stone. He learns through talking with the demons that walked around in very early day how to work with metal. He can talk to Azazel about that. He hooks up with his father's ex-wife. There's no way to say that without...
His father's ex... This is sounding very Grecian right now.
You know Lilith?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was Adam's first wife in Jewish lore and in Vampire. And after Adam rejects Lilith, Lilith instead hooks up with Cain. And with Cain, they have their 3 kids, Enoch, Irad, and Zillah, the second generation. And then after that, Cain quickly breaks apart from Lilith. We don't get exact details as to why, because both of them are lying about their side of the story. But Lilith breaks things off with Cain and says, I'm going to do everything I can to destroy your legacy. Cain says, be my guest, and goes off and lives in the first city with his 3 kids. And of course, we have the Book of Enoch. We know who Enoch is, the first ruler, where his whole call to fame is, the most famous thing I can say that he said is, everyone who insults my father, I will kill 7 of you. Everyone who insults me or my descendants, I'll kill 77 of you. He's genocidal, is what you can get from Enoch.
Yes.
He's not a good person.
No.
None of the second generation are good people.
Given that Cain, killed out of envy and then had a child that became the first ruler, that does not surprise me.
And you look at the 3 second generation, and they sire every vampire there is, except Ravnos and Enoya. Ravnos was sired by Cain directly, and Enoya, if this is to be believed, was sired by Lilith. Very interesting, because Lilith never went through the first generation process. So, who is the guy who sires Saulot? I thought I had this down to a science, but it turns out I don't. I thought there was a correlation with disciplines, where if Irad, the strong, sired you, you would have celerity or fortitude. If Zillah did it, you would have presence. If Enoch did it, you would have aspects. That's how I thought it worked. But as I looked at the Antediluvians, it kind of like jumps around as to who has what discipline, and now I can't really tell anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to rely on the book just out and out telling you. So it says there's a 80% chance it was Enoch, 20% it was Zillah. We're going to say it's Enoch for the sake of the story.
Right.
You have Saulot, who is a citizen of the first city. And he is the best boy. He is the nicest boy. He has Joseph's power from like the story of Joseph and the Coat of Many Colors and the Prince of Egypt. He has dreams where he's able to see the immediate future. And after having these dreams, he'll go to people and warn them about what's going to happen in their future. And he's able to prevent disasters from happening. And he doesn't hide his power at all. He's going around telling the people the future. And he's giving them the best possible path to the best possible result. And everybody loves Saulot. And Enoch pulls Cain over and says, you gotta check this guy out. Cain walks over, talks to Saulot, and they immediately have this beautiful relationship. Compare this to his story with Ravnos. He was looking at Ravnos like a little brother. He saw him as a replacement to Abel. He sees Saulot as a brother, but more like an equal instead of being a little brother. This is more like his twin that he never had.
Right. And
him and Saulot go on these massive conversations that last days, hours, as they talk about stuff. They talk about in-depth philosophy, the nature of God, existentialism. Why are we here? What's the best thing we can do for people? And he brings out the best in Cain, something no other person ever could. And Cain says, Saulot, we've been talking for 10 years. It's 10 years in the future since we started talking. We can't let you die. I'm going to hook you up with my son, Enoch. He's going to embrace you. He's going to turn you into an antediluvian. Are you okay with this? He says yes. Saulot gets embraced and becomes a member of the Antediluvians. He is a sibling vampire, kind of like if you see the generations as sons and daughters, which is how the Giovanni and Ventrue kind of see it.
Yeah.
This would make him like a half-brother to Malkav and Arakel.
Oh shit, so he's fucking wildly powerful.
Yeah, the Malkavian Antediluvian and the Toreador Antediluvian.
Jesus.
And after his embrace, he starts talking to Malkav. And him and Malkav have this fantastic relationship. The reason why Saulot's talking to him, Malkav out and out insults Cain to his face. And it's such a deep insult that Cain grips Malkav by the throat, throttles him, and then curses Malkav with the insanity. That's why Malkav and Malkavians are so batshit insane. It's a curse from Cain.
Oh. Well, I mean, that's pretty on character for Malkav. That son of a bitch can never keep his goddamn mouth shut.
Exactly, and Malkav is this blathering lunatic. This is his very early insanity. He can't even form a correct, complete sentence. and nothing he does makes sense. He's acting erratic. Saulot comes near him, and Saulot, without knowing it, starts using his disciplines, and Malkav's insanity stops. When he's around Saulot, he's thinking lucid thoughts. He's saying normal stuff. And him and Saulot have this fantastic relationship because Saulot is his living antidepressant and anti-anxiety meds, antipsychotics. There's no way he's going to leave Saulot's side because he wants to stay sane. Saulot eventually learns to help Malkav control his insanity, and then Malkav realizes, with his vampire powers, he can see the past, present, and future all at the same time. He's not schizophrenic. He's seeing different realities and different timelines and different possibilities. That's what he's seeing. He's not as crazy as he thinks he is. And thanks to Saulot, he learns how to control that, which is what leads to the Malkavian clan's mastery of Auspex. Even when they're not using Auspex, they still have Auspex activated all the time. I mean, play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines and tell me that's not Auspex going off all the time.
Yeah.
And thanks to that, Malkav says, hey, Saulot, there's this guy I've been talking to called Set. I think you're really going to like him. And Malkav introduces Saulot to Set.
How did that go?
Pretty well, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's that this was back when Set thought he was going to inherit the throne. And sure, he's complaining to Saulot saying, you know, Raw, it sucks. This guy killed my parents for having kids. And I'm trying to do the best I can. I have my two sisters and my brother. But, you know, it's going to be fine in the future. I'm going to be king. And Saulot says, good for you. I'm pretty sure you're going to be an honest and just ruler someday. And the three of them are attached to the hip. They spend just about every day with each other while Cain's away in Asia embracing Ravnos. And as this is going on, Set ends up descending and has his battle with Apep. And then he comes back, and he's different. He's got that look in his eye. He looks over at Saulot and Malkav and says, I have seen the devil, and I need to do everything I can to fight him. And Saulot is very confused by this. Malkav seems to immediately know what he's talking about. And then Set leaves the friend group to do what he has to do, and then watch our video on the ministry to figure out what that is.
Yes.
And Saulot talks with Malkav, but their relationship begins to slowly strain. They start talking, and Saulot realizes that Malkav has a fear. Malkav is terrified of heaven. He's terrified of God. He's terrified of angels. While Saulot is deeply interested and reverent in God. Malkav wants to be of this earth. He wants to have an earthly everlasting kingdom. He wants to use his powers to create a world of everlasting chaos, where in chaos, new stuff can constantly be born, die, and then reborn. He's interested in the concept of metempsychosis, and doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to see heaven. He definitely doesn't want to see God, because God made Cain. Cain gave him his insanity. Malkav is God-fearing, as in, I'm terrified of what God can do to me. Saulot doesn't agree with any of this. They can't compromise, which leads to Saulot talking to Malkav less and less. They're still friends, but not as good as they used to be.
Right.
Saulot goes over, and he sees, well, it's like 3 weirdos out in the woods that are, well, they're doing some weird blood magic. They're drawing this circle with a star in it. And Saulot walks over and says, what are you doing? And the 3 of them look up and say, oh, you're one of Cain's kids. Come on over. We're going to teach you something. And this is where the possible Malkav isn't a good person part starts. The people that Saulot talks to, I'm sorry, are Nurgle, Moloch, and Shaitan, the 3 progenitors of Clan Bali.
Okay, it's the actual fucking devil worshippers. Cool.
Yes, he starts talking with them. And it seems that Saulot didn't take that whole demiurge thing to heart, because he starts hanging out with these literal Satanists, and they ask him for his blood. He gives it to them. And then with that, they start casting this big damn spell after ingesting his blood. Cain figures out that Saulot's talking to them after he comes back from Asia. He's pissed as hell. He rams his fist through Nurgle's chest and then drags him over, throws him down a witching well, does the same with Moloch and Shaitan, walks over to Saulot and says, "Don't you ever talk to those guys again." And Saulot says, "Okay, okay, I'm sorry, Cain. I don't want to. I don't want. I'll never do it again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And then Saulot looks back at the well, and then leaves. And then a month later, Moloch crawls out first, then Shaitan, and then Nurgle. And thanks to a pact they made with the devil, they are now Clan Bali, using the blood that Saulot gave them to become these pseudo-vampires and offshoot of Clan Salubri.
Right, so they basically ghouled themselves.
Yes. And then the Bali Wars began. Now, leading up to the Bali Wars, Saulot embraced two different people. The first one we get to talk about is Samael. The poison of God is what that name directly translates to.
Right.
So Samael was a warrior from the first city who was this extremely violent man. He just loved fighting. He loved combat. He was like a world eater from 40k, where if there was a fight going on, Samael just had to run over and say, "Get me in the middle of that," and just fight along with it. And this disgusted Saulot to the degree where he said, "I have to embrace you and give you a chill pill. Stop doing this." He embraces Samael, and then Samael just goes right back off to doing what he was doing before. And with his new vampire powers, he can't go out in the sun, but every night he's just wandering out to the wilderness. And this was back when, we were tribal back then. Every nation was a city-state that was formed off of an ideology that was either you're monotheistic, you're a pagan. Nobody really talked to each other back then. Wars happened all the time. Samael was just fighting whatever fight he could, and just did it just to do it.
Right.
And eventually he started realizing that there were a few Satanists back then, like proto-Satanists. He was going after them, fighting them, and slowly but surely, Saulot's plan worked, but not in the way he thought it would. Samael stops being violent for the sake of being violent, and he becomes something like a Dungeons and Dragons paladin, where he says, "I no longer want to fight for the sake of fighting. I'm forming this warrior code that I'm going to follow, where I'm only going to fight the evil, and I'm going to protect the innocent and be a force of righteousness." And Saulot says, "This isn't exactly what I wanted, but that sounds good."
So he accidentally found some purpose through the embrace, which, you know what, is honestly better than what he was doing. So,
and given the Bali Wars were starting up around this time, Samael wanted some intel about that. Samael embraced 15 different people during his life. If you were a strong person, if you're a badass, Samael would pick you up, embrace you, and then say, "You fight with me now. Let's go kill stuff together."
sounds
He
like an easy way to
sends
make friends.
This guy sounds like he's great to get a beer with, right?
Actually, yes, Samuel's based as hell.
Samael sends 4 of his men, his direct children, to go and figure out what's going on with Clan Bali. 1 returns, and it's that scene from Inglourious Bastards after the one guy survives the fight with the bastards.
Yep, and he has like the swastika carved into his head.
Yeah, he sees that with the Bali and says, "Oh, I don't think I can win this fight." He goes back over to Cain and says, "Hey, these Bali guys, if you had 5 of me, if you had an army of 10 of me, I don't think I could fight this." And Cain says, "Here, I've got a perfect guy. I got this guy, Hakim, and he's going to fight the war with you." And Hakim says, "No, I don't want to fight this war." Cain says, "You got to do it because I blood-bounded you." And Hakim, who is evil, he is the Antediluvian of Clan Asamite, known today as the Banu Hakim.
Yeah, and as we all know from both, Vampire Gaiden, where I played an Asamite, They're kind of fucking scary.
Exactly. These guys can just cause your throat to fill with blood and you drown in a puddle of your own blood that
Yes.
you can't spit out.
Their blood sorcery is terrifying. Quite literally, it one-shot somebody in our vampire campaign a while back that we didn't record, and you literally staked our Toreador upon her own blood.
And that's the fun thing you can do with the Bali.
Or no,
Put
the
them up against
Banahaki.
Yasamite.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, these two. You have the two super OP vampires fighting each other. And Samael looks at this and says, "Wow, I didn't think Quietus was going to be that powerful. This is awesome. Get me in the middle of it." And it puts the fight back in Samael. He runs right back into the fight with the Bali Wars, and eventually they kill Nurgle, the head of that demonic tribe. But the question is, did Nurgle actually die? A guy who claimed to be Nurgle rose back up during the time of the Black Plague and claimed to be the guy who started the Black Plague, only for him to die 5 days later. So maybe we got him. Maybe that was an imposter. We're going to say he got him for the story. We're going to say that. We're going to say that.
Yeah.
And then after the first...
Hello? Oh shit, did my internet crap out on me?
Well,
no, you're good. Okay, we're back in it. Sorry about that, folks. Small technical difficulties. So we were at, did we actually get him?
It's the Sonic Strider episode all over again.
Yes, that's true.
Alright, after the war ends, Samuel looks at Saulot and says, "I'm going to go to Europe." And he runs over, he sprints across the Mediterranean, he's in Greece, he's in Italy, he's in Proto-Germany, Proto-France, and he moves across the ocean and goes all the way to Ireland. So, Tyler Bassett.
Yeah.
You have a woman in your mythology known as Skatok.
Alright.
That was the Salubri.
What are you fucking about?
And the thing is, with the Salubri, Skatok is a warrior woman in Irish myth who ended up teaching the braves of the brave warriors of Ireland how to be disciplined in the sword, the spear, all their different weapons. Meaning that the Fianna got all of their chops from Samael's kid.
Ha! Imagine that. The fucking leech is helping us.
There we go. The Salubri taught you how to fight.
Well, there are worse people to teach you how to fight, like the fucking get.
Pure violence versus pure discipline.
Yes.
And the Salubri, as they're moving around Europe, managed to make a few friends. They talk with the gangrel and say, these guys hang out in the woods and they're kind of weird looking and they don't wipe their asses after pooping and they pee on trees and they help the moon. These guys are kind of freaking us out. Okay, let's not talk to gangrel anymore. They move over to the Bruja and say, these guys are full of shit. They go over to the Ventru. Close, but not quite the guys we want to talk to. They try with those three clans. They strike out with all three. And once again, the only tribe they can get along with are the Malkavians. Thanks to Saulot and Malkav were still on good terms at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens next? The second Bali War happens. The Bali aren't done. They want vengeance. So as Samuel is heading back over to the Middle East to fight the war, he comes across the worst possible person he could have met on that trip back. The eldest. The Tzimisce Antediluvian.
That's not good.
Now, would you like to know what this guy looks like?
Yep, lay it on me.
Alright, so it's a little hard to describe what he looks like, given that the Antediluvian of the Tzimisce has eaten so many people. He has a very abstract to say
He looks
to
like a
distract.
fucking Picasso painting.
Yeah, he looks like this. The history pages.
That is fucking horrifying looking when this fucking thing loads.
That
What the hell? He's quite
he does.
literally he's a Fomori at this point. Look at that.
He doesn't. He doesn't even resemble a human being anymore. Those are trees in the foreground, and he's towering over them.
He's a fucking monster.
That's the worst thing you could have encountered on your way back, and of course it kills Samuel. Of course it does. You can't win a fight with this.
Can a mage?
Maybe not, because Sumichi has eaten so many different souls. He's regenerating at a drone's pace.
Oh fuck. So
Yeah.
he's a pain in
Yeah.
the ass.
Yeah, this guy has his own times of judgment scenario where he by himself destroys the world and succeeds.
He looks like he could.
Yeah, this is why I say, fuck the worm. We have antediluvians to worry about.
Yes. So the fucking Assamites and the Cainites, not the Cainites, but the Sabbat have a point when it comes to
The Bali.
Yeah.
Yeah, killing the antediluvians. So Samuel dies, but the memory of him lives on. He does have this little samurai bushido code that has been passed down to all the other Salubri that they still follow, even within the Sabbat.
They started to go, what would Saulot do?
It really sucks that he's dead, but he did live a good life when he was alive.
Yeah.
And this is his bushido code. You ready?
Yes.
If you wish to be a warrior of the Salubri, you must have 5 things. First, some skill in arms. You need to know how to use a sword or a spear. Or, in modern times, how to be trained in firearms. You need to be a guy that knows how to fight before you become a Salubri. Second, the conviction of spirit. You must have a reason to fight. You can't fight for violence's sake. You need to have something that's driving you forward. Third, a restive nature, an urge to rest between battles. You can't seek combat all the time. You need to know when you're in a garden to be the gardener. You need to know when you're in a war to be a warrior. Fourth, you must be a veteran in some sort of way. We need to know that you're going to survive the fights we're going to throw you into. And fifth, you must have a calling. You can't fight for yourself. You have to fight for other people. You have to fight for a cause. If you have all 5 of those things, you become a member of the Salubri.
Yeah, Cole would have made a good Salubri then.
There you go. You wish these guys found you instead.
Oh, my life would have been miles easier.
And then after you're embraced, you go through this massive training regiment where the Salubri will teach you how to be badass. You start with a sword. They spar with you for years and years. It's not nearly as rigid as the Assamites, but it's still a strict combat discipline where 3 years need to go by before we are certain that you can go into the battlefield and win wars for us.
For Assamites,
And
it's 14 years, if I remember correctly.
Yes. And with this, you have Valerin, and the Salubri who are trained in this way learn how to use Valerin in a specific way. This is what starts the warrior caste. The Salubri who can use Valerin to enhance pain that they deal. You'll be in so much pain after one scratch that you will immediately surrender a fight because it's just that excruciating. One hit from a Salubri can max out your damage values in superficial damage.
Ooh, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun finding a Salubri. And moving down the line, we have another group of Salubri. We begin the story of Raziel. You spell that Rayzeel.
Nice. Raziel.
And we actually have a picture of what she looks like.
All right.
And she looks like a woman in her 40s because that's what she is.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, it's her. Bombs away.
Yep. There we go.
So who is she? She used to be a Germanic woman named Genevieve, and she would go around and she was a healer. Faith healer, maybe. It said in here that she had a beautiful singing voice, and with her being a healer, maybe she was a celestial chorister. I mean, the way the celestial chorus cast magic is through song, but they don't list those mages by name, so I'm going to say it's a maybe, but let's go with no for the story. She would go around and she would show compassion to every tribe. She had a wealth of knowledge and medicine for very, very early European people. And every tribe that met her said, do not harm this woman. If you see her, let her work her magic. And with her around, opposing tribes and warring factions would be at peace in her presence. She was this saint back before the concept of saint started. And Saulot found out about her and said, I need to know this woman. He goes over, he finds Raziel, back when she's known as Genevieve, and he has this conversation with her, and he is immediately starstruck by Genevieve. This is a woman of God, if he has ever seen one. They talk for 10 years before Saulot says, the world would be better off if you lived forever. The world would suffer if you died. I feel it's my responsibility to keep you alive, but I'm not going to embrace you unless you give me the okay. Do I have the okay? She says yes. She is embraced into the Salubri, and she's different from Samael. She doesn't have the conviction to go out and fight like he did. So Saulot starts thinking, okay, this is good. The people I embrace don't turn into Templars. We can have a scholar like I want. And after her embrace, she changes her name to Raziel. You notice something. A lot of Salubri named themselves after angels.
Yes. I mean, they are a very God-fearing clan. From its inception, rather, because of Cain.
Given how religious... Yeah. How religious Saulot was.
Yes.
I've seen Terillium V say it's Saulot, but Saulot's not French, and this is a combination of Saul and Lot. So I see how you could have gotten a French pronunciation of it, but nah, I'm pretty sure it's Saulot.
We have no way to confirm that, but we're going with Saulot.
Yeah, until White Wolf calls us and says this is how it's pronounced.
Yeah, one day.
Even then, we're going to get 20 different people giving us 20 different interpretations.
Absolutely.
Given that none of these guys talk to each other.
Yeah, I feel like that could have helped them a lot, but that's a little off topic. So back to it.
And we kind of sort of put Raziel's story on pause after that happens because she's doing what she did already. She's gone around healing people, but now she's got Valerin, and she creates the healer cast version of it, where she's reaching into your soul, touching your soul, modifying it, which causes an effect within your body and your mind to heal you of your ailments, physical and mental.
That's pretty fucking tight.
Perfect healing.
If you want to play a healer in Vampire the Masquerade.
But never use that on yourself. You're wasting blood points if you use that on yourself. It's meant to be used on other people.
Yes.
Specifically the humans that your Sabbat buddies don't pay attention to and cause collateral damage.
Yes, a good healer can prevent a masquerade breach.
And we have one more group to talk about that Clan Book Salubri doesn't go into detail with, so I had to go to another source for this. I feel like we're missing something from the Clan Book guys.
They ran out of time.
You did a few extra pages for the Red Talons, who had no history, and we couldn't get a little extra with the Salubri. I'm kind of miffed about that. But
close enough.
What did Saulot do after the Bali War started? Well, he got depressed. Really depressed. Like Vampire Hirano is what he got. He locked himself in his room, and just refused to come out. The only people that could talk to him during that time were Malkav, because they were still on good terms, and Raziel, who was, his favorite person. Cain was too busy cleaning up Saulot's mess for him, so he wasn't around for that part of the story. And Saulot is terrified of what he just did. He just created the three worst people on the planet. He is terrified as to what he could do. And he says, I need to walk away for a while. He leaves the Middle East, and he walks and walks and walks until he finds himself in China. And there he meets the Zhao brothers. One, Zhao Zhe, and Zhao Jue is who he talks to. And he runs to these guys, and they're like Confucius and Lao Zhe before they ever existed. And Saulot talks to them, and he ends up forming pretty much a vampire study group with these two.
Oh.
he has a question. He asks the question to the brothers, and him and the brothers think about it. They go off on their separate ways. They research. They come back a month later. They compare notes. They come to a conclusion together. And it's all it says. Same with Raziel. You're too brilliant to allow you to die. Please let me embrace you. They both agree to it. Same story as before. He embraces the Zhao brothers. And behold, you now have the sages. The Zhao brothers are two incredibly, incredibly, incredibly smart people. They know a lot of stuff. In fact, they're so smart they end up helping Saulot reach enlightenment. While he's in China talking to the Zhao brothers, a third eye opens on Saulot's forehead. And behold, you wonder why he's got three eyes in that portrait. That's why.
Yes.
And after it happens to him, every other vampire that has been embraced by Samael, Raziel, they have eyes appear in their foreheads too. And Saulot says, I understand. I understand everything. He reaches enlightenment, and by doing that, he gains Golconda, the ultimate state a vampire can reach, making peace with the beast inside of you. Let me tell you what this does. With this, you're able to eat food as if you were when you're alive. Your digestive system technically starts working again. You no longer need to drink blood. You can just go forever without drinking blood. Hunger meter, gone. What happens next is you're able to go out into sunlight for a short amount of time. It's gotta be weak sunlight, like sunlight from an overcast sky.
Yep.
And while you're out in that sunlight, you're able to survive it, but you start catching fire, and then you have to quickly go back inside. But Saulot can do this, and in doing this, he realizes this is my calling. This is why I'm here. I need to go around and find as many vampires as possible, and I need to save them from themselves. We don't need to be monsters. We don't need to hate ourselves. Hakim hates being a vampire. He hates what Cain did and his children did. And he's looking at the other Antediluvians. La Sombra, Arakil, Ventru, even Malkav. We can be better than what we are, and Golconda is the answer. And that's what he dedicates himself to. Saulot lives the rest of his existence as the man on the Silver Mountain, where he is the wise man. He's up on the mountain all day, learning the secrets of the universe. He comes down at night. He teaches the vampires what he knows. He forms a congregation, and he manages to save a few people with Golconda.
Oh, quick question. Do you mind letting me know how we could get that Golconda shite? That sounds bloody spectacular.
Well, there's a way you can get it, and the way you achieve Golconda, that information has been destroyed by the Tremere, but there is a substitution. The closest thing we have to it is the Path of Humanity. Would you like for me to tell you about the Path of Humanity?
I would graciously appreciate that, mate.
So, the Path of Humanity, you remember Sylvester Shrek was being set on this until he got pulled off by the events of the game. So, what this ultimately is that it is making peace with that you have a monster inside of you. Sure, you're a vampire. You're not necessarily human anymore. But in a reverse to transhumanism, this is you returning to the human that you used to be. You want to act as much of a you want to act like a paragon of humanity. You want to think of people like Moses, like Jesus Christ, and you want to embody what they did. You want to do what they do. And you want to believe that I'm not copying them. I'm doing this because I know this is the right thing to do. And you want to stay away from the ideas of selfish thoughts, selfish acts, theft and robbery. Pretty much following the Ten Commandments is what you end up doing. And by pushing away the inner beast inside of you, you slowly start reminding yourself what it's like to be human again. And in doing so, you're able to push your beast away, and it really puts off your hunger. You don't need to feed for a month after that happens. But it's not quite Golconda. But it's the closest we can get until that information is restored.
Alright, so I've been taking care of my family. I haven't killed anyone in a long time. I'd say I'm doing alright. I don't know if there's anyone else I could talk to get me some guidance on that. That'd be spectacular. Wonder if Sylvester's still alive.
Now keep in mind, this takes years to do. This takes like 50 years minimum for you to accomplish.
Oh, Christ, years I've got.
Yeah. The question is, will the world last long enough for you to reach Golconda?
I mean, what if it ends? Then I'm dead and everyone that I've cared about would also be dead.
There we go. We tied it back into Werewolf.
Yup. And the voice of Colt Mason.
Now, we get a good idea as to what happened to Samuel. We know he's dead. The Zamichi can confirm his death. Raziel, we find out what happens to her later. We don't get a confirmation as to what happens to the Zhao brothers. We don't get to learn their fates. But given that the Kuei Jin are everywhere in China, they're either dead or they're in hiding. So
Or maybe the Kuei Jin put him in torpor and just kind of stuffed him into a mountain somewhere.
Yeah, let's pray that these guys are somewhere.
Yeah, because if we can relearn Golconda through them, then, that could solve a lot of issues overnight.
Exactly. Saulot comes back, he's got the third eye, and he says, "Hey guys, I figured out how to reach enlightenment." And all the Antediluvians say, "Cool, we're going to kill the second generation vampires." And Saulot says, "What?" And behold, the Antediluvians rebel and kill Enoch, Irad, and Zilla. A feat that was thought to be impossible, but the Antediluvians pulled it off.
Holy shit.
Great, right?
Yeah.
And after that happens, some Antediluvians participate in it more than others. Arakel has to be dragged into doing it. Set doesn't participate. Hakim is on the front lines. He hates the second generation for embracing him. And the eldest and La Sombra are there with him. And those three really do carry the entire fight, and they end up killing all the second generation. And Cain looks at his vampire children and says, "Fuck all of you. You killed my kids. I will never, never forgive you for this." And from that happening, Cain begins to realize just what he did to Adam and Eve from killing Abel. He realizes what he did to God by killing Abel. And it fills Cain with this equal measure of rage and despair, seeing his three kids that he spent centuries raising die in front of him. And Cain swears that one day he's going to come back and he's going to take his revenge on the Antediluvians. He is going to take away everything that they built. But he's not going to do it today. He's not going to do it tomorrow. He's going to wait until these clans hit their peak. That they have accomplished all they possibly can. That there is nowhere to go for the vampire clans because they have accomplished everything they possibly could, then Cain is going to come in and take all of it away. But there is one Antediluvian that will be spared from his wrath. Saulot. Saulot and Cain have one last conversation. Cain is filled with grief. He can't look Saulot in the eye. Saulot says, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to do what I can to fix the mistake of the Antediluvians through redeeming their children. And Cain says, good luck with that. We're never going to meet each other again. The next time I see you, I probably won't recognize you and I might kill you. Saulot says, I understand, and I'm sorry it had to go this way. Happy trails. And they say goodbye to each other for the last time.
That's actually a really sad story. Now I feel bad for Cain. Shit.
Yeah, exactly. Cain has done nothing but suffer throughout the entirety of World of Darkness. He is this powerful figure. The rules for fighting Cain in Vampire the Masquerade are you lose. That sheet I sent you, that was a joke sheet made from the entry that is in the Vampire book about fighting Cain.
Yeah.
But what does Cain have? His brother's dead. His parents are long gone. Lilith hates him. All three of his kids were murdered by his grandchildren, and his grandchildren have built empires in spite of Cain. He has nothing left, even though he's got all this power. There's no being stronger than Cain, and it's pointless that he's this strong.
So yeah, he's just there. He is the impending doom of every vampire.
It's that curse that God gave him. You will suffer forever. You will pray for death, but death will never find you. And who's to say that his revenge against the Antediluvians would work at all?
It might not, but that would be a part of God's curse if that was the point.
Yeah. You really do look at Cain, and that guy is the most tragic figure in World of Darkness. I don't care what anyone else has to say about any character. You don't have a sadder story than Cain.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, the Fianna and the Silent Striders might have lost their homes in different ways. They've lost friends, they've lost loved ones. Cain lost everything. Everything.
And yet,
over
there's
centuries of progress.
No chance he can gain anything back. You will stay at his current state forever, and only in times of judgment would he ever be freed. We continue. So after that happens, Malkav and Saulot are no longer friends. Saulot hates Malkav for what he did to Cain, and rightly so, because Saulot was fully on Cain's side. And by the way, Ventru, the Venture Antediluvian, was the other guy who stood by Cain, and he was brutally murdered trying to defend Cain from Hakim and Lasombra.
Jesus.
Yeah. So you killed the only other good person. I mean, Saulot and Ventru didn't talk, but at the same time, that happened, and Saulot says, you are not the person I met back in the first city, Malkav. I don't ever want to see you again. And Saulot breaks things off of Malkav and walks away. And how does Malkav cope with that? He goes all in on Set is what happens.
Yeah, and we already know how that turned out. Again, see the Ministry video for more information.
And how Malkav's story in that ended. On his way from the tip of from Africa to avenge Set after he was put into torpor, and let's face it, Set's dead. He's not coming back into World of Darkness. To avenge Set, he was caught by hunters, as in we get our powers from God hunters, and was killed by them in Jerusalem. That's how Malkav's story ends.
Imagine you're one of the most powerful beings to walk the earth. You can see the past, present, and future. You get fucking murked by a bunch of dudes with spears.
Exactly. It's in his own rage, like only being able to focus on Set, he couldn't see the future of him being killed by humans.
That's an excellent idea now that you mention it.
You're the smartest being in the world, and yet you're too stupid to see what's happening right in front of you.
That is a spectacular idea.
You have Saulot, who, well, both of his friends are dead. I mean, Set, he tried to reach out to Set, but Set was on his whole God complex. I'm going to succeed where God has failed. I'm going to fight the Demiurge. And I am going to build Egypt to be this kingdom in my name. And I will take the place of God and become the God of the world. And Saulot says, okay, what the hell happened to you? The answer is Ra and Osiris happened to Set. That's what happened. But at the same time, we said that a lot of Set's issues, that's Set's own fault, the way he turned out the way he did.
Yes.
So both of his friends are gone. Great. At least there's Raziel. That's the one person Saulot has left to confide in. And sure, he can make a few trips to China and talk with the Zhao brothers, but Raziel's the only person that really keeps them going anymore. And Saulot says, I have to focus. I have a job I need to do. I need to help vampires reach Goanda. And in doing so, he ends up perfecting his ideas because he talks to the sages of the world. This dude talks to Jesus Christ, to Siddhartha Gautama, to Laoji, and to Confucius. He meets all four of them in his life. And he says, these four are the most brilliant people I've ever seen. Can I embrace you? They all say no. And he respects that decision. Jesus Christ, vampire star, imagine that.
Yes. That would have been kind of sick, though, not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, you look at Lazarus.
Yes.
That's a Cappadocian.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Saulot's wandering of the world, he says, these four men were the most brilliant minds I've ever seen in my life. Probably more brilliant than the Zhao brothers. And if I can call them the four sages, I want to be the fifth sage. I want to be the fifth smartest man in the world. And maybe then I can help make the world a better place. And this is Saulot's life for years. He's going around and he is meeting with whatever great mind he can. And he's storing this knowledge. He's talking to people from all around the old world. He never went to America. And Prophet Muhammad is on the list of people that he talked to. And maybe the person that Muhammad met wasn't Gabriel, but was Saulot instead.
That is an interesting point there. I mean, with the millennia at this point of knowledge that Saulot would have gained, that would have made sense. Would have met him on the hill and whispered and told him all he knew.
If that turned out to be the case, and Saulot was the person Muhammad met, then that ultimately screwed Hakim out of his own clan. Because remember, the Assamites became so devout in Islam that when they were asked by Shogi to drop Islam in the name of the crusade, they quit the clan en masse and caused a complete collapse of the Assamites.
Yes, hence Banu Hakim.
So Saulot got the last laugh at the end of the day, if that's the case.
Say what you will about Saulot. He is a cheeky bastard.
Exactly. He's doing all this stuff and it's paying off in just the right way. You see that he's this positive influence in the world, and he's not doing some of this stuff intentionally. It just happens because somebody came across Saulot one day.
Yes. He's the change that he wants to see in the world.
The issue is that all the Antediluvians are starting to fall into torpor. If they're still alive, they're beginning to fall into their comatose sleep, where they sleep and stay asleep, and because they're Antediluvians, there's no vampire out there that can bring them out of their sleep besides another Antediluvian. And the only two people awake at this time are Cappadocius and Saulot. Saulot has tried to talk to Cappadocius, and Cappadocius is the weirdest man he's ever met in his life. There's no saving Cappadocius. Forget it, we can't talk to this guy. He had a near-death experience that caused him to go insane. And you saw what happened with Malkath. He can't reason with Cappadocius. He tries his best. He manages to save all the vampires that he can. But Saulot can feel himself growing weaker every day. He's struggling to move. He's hearing his bones creak and pop as he walks, as his body is forcing itself into torpor. And eventually the day comes where he knows he can't stay awake any longer. He's in Vienna around this time. I'm pretty sure that's where he is. I might be wrong about the location. And he looks at Raziel and he says, I've tried to resist this as much as I can. I'm going into torpor. And hopefully one day I can come back and finish the job. But until then, try to do my teachings for me, Raziel. This is up to you now. I put the fate of the clan in your hands. Raziel becomes the founder, well, not really the founder, the leader of Clan Salubri by this point. And Saulot goes into torpor. By this time, the Salubri have become pretty widespread. They're vampire secret police in a way, where they're going out, they're looking for demons. By demons, we mean Fomori, Nefandi, and the Fallen of Demon the Fallen, is what I mean. But along with that, they're looking for unjust vampires who are causing destruction. And they are the goody two-shoes of the world of darkness. If there is a threat in the world, you can bet that there's a Salubri warrior waiting to fight it. If there are people suffering from a plague or from mass murder, you're pretty sure that there is a Salubri healer saving the victims from dying. And if there's a watcher, you're pretty sure that he's going around sharing information with his clan. The Zhao brothers in Asia.
Yes.
And eventually they spread to Africa. And funny enough, the Salubri in Africa are doing just fine.
Oh.
They survive what's coming next.
Huh.
And like I said before, like what I told you about the Libon, that's pretty much what the Salubri were already doing. It's saying, I'm a vampire, I have magic powers, follow me. And that's what the Salubri end up doing in Africa.
Well, I mean, it seems to work for them. They're like, oh, cool, he has powers, he could protect us. Let's go be his friend.
Because Africa, I'm trying to say this in like the best way possible without coming off as insensitive, because I'm not trying to be. They didn't get modern day technology until like years and years and years down the road.
Well,
so
yeah,
the Salubri were able to get.
That was a lot of colonization too. I mean, like, you know, it's the same thing with like the Native Americans, that like they had, you know, functioning societies. We discussed this in the Croatan video.
No post office, no telegram, no vehicles for a while.
They didn't really need it. They had everything they needed. And like Africa was the same way for a long time, and then colonization happened, and then they got everything that, you know, the colonizers brought over.
And whenever an empire tried to form, it didn't last, because it eventually fell apart because your leader dies, and then nobody's able to fill his shoes.
True. Although you did have a number of you know, very successful empires in Africa for a long time. You know, you had the Mali, you have the Swahili, you have the Ethiopians, you had the Chad. There was a lot of them around there.
Can we get a praying hands emoji in the comment section for Shaka Zulu?
Yes.
And sure, the Salubri are doing pretty well. They're doing too well. Enter the story Tremere. I struggle to think of people in World of Darkness more out and out evil than Tremere.
Yeah, the Tremere are openly just dickheads to everybody.
Tremere around this time was a member of House Tremere of the Hermetics. To remind us who the Hermetics are, these are alchemists who followed the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, the other guy who looked into the sun, saw the demiurge in his starved, whipping myself hallucinations, and then began modern-day alchemy, and what eventually led to postmodernism, where Gnosticism is, you look at Christianity and say, are you sure Jesus said that? Are you sure the disciples said that? Are you sure that happened? And it's this constant second-guessing that led to the complete heretical bullshit. If you unironically believe in Gnosticism, I think there's no saving you. I mean, you've got to be out of your fucking mind to believe this shit, dude.
Well, as we've seen, there's a lot of fucked people out there.
We saw that woman in Georgia that was like a self-proclaimed witch, that was a juror and was like, currently going on with like Donald Trump's trial, like
Oh,
his
what?
indictments.
Oh, my
A
God.
self-proclaimed witch who's like grinning like a sociopath on television the entire time, like getting her 5 minutes of fame. I'm thinking like, who the fuck pulled you out of the woods and who can put you back in there?
I don't know, but they need to put her back in there. It reminds me of this
Um,
one post I saw, and it was like some Tumblr Wiccan thread about doing astral projecting to Allah in order to fight Islam, and they all got
I said do that.
violently ill.
It's the same too with like you remember Jordan D in Spirit Science? That shit.
That I don't remember. No.
It's saying like, oh, I've managed to contact Elliot Page through astral projection, and
Oh my
I've
fucking
told him you
God.
need to take that the Jews travel back in time to ensure their own existence after having a conversation with the Thoth. And it's that this it's kind of stuff where you swear it's schizo posting, but no, people believe in this shit.
Yeah, speaking of that, like there's a channel I watch that does a lot of comedy, like costume comedy. I don't remember the name of the channel. I think it's like
Yeah.
something Gordon is great, and he did one where it's like how anti-Semites think Jews work, and it's just like he's
Yeah.
sitting, and he is Jewish. And he's sitting
Yeah.
there wearing a yarmulke, and he's like, "What should we make the price of gold today? You know, because we control that."
Exactly. It's the same
It's
crap.
fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, if that were true, everybody would have converted to Judaism by this point.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing about Judaism. Like, yes, there are people, you know, who are direct Jewish descendants. They're of the children of Israel. But at the end of the day, Judaism is still a religion. You can convert to
Yeah.
Judaism. You can go to a
It,
synagogue, talk to a rabbi, and he will teach you. Because a rabbi is Hebrew for teacher. That is his job.
hmm
Anybody can become
And
Jewish. It's not a whole racial thing. It is a religion.
and we've talked about all this to establish that the Hermetics are out of their fucking minds.
Yeah, fuck the Hermetics.
Yeah, you wonder why the nine traditions have failed to make the world a better place.
It's because those fucking assholes exist.
Oh, and also the reason why we have the technocracy, the Hermetics.
That does not surprise
If
me in the slightest.
if it wasn't for the Order of Hermes, we wouldn't have the technocracy.
Yes.
Wonderful. And Tremere and his number two Goratrix say, we want to live forever. I want to be king of existence. In my fight against the Demiurge, in my own way, I'm going to do exactly what Set's doing, and I'm going to make myself a god, but I need to make sure that I live forever. Life magic, pretty cool, but we don't specialize in it, and there's nothing in it that lets me live forever. So he goes over, and he starts hunting and capturing Zemichi vampires, so he can drag them back to his chantry, and then he drinks the blood dry from the Zemichi vampires. Tell me how good of an idea that is.
That's a terrible fucking idea. Serial diabolizing Zamichi. Do you realize what all that vicissitude is going to do to you?
Exactly, and the whole theory that vicissitude is a virus that exists within the vampires. So behold, you're intentionally infecting yourself with demon plague in an attempt to become immortal.
Not even a
And
weaker version of it. That's just mainlining a virus. You're gonna die.
that's how that's how you go. It's as smart as like finding somebody like bug chasing, like finding somebody that has HIV and AIDS and having sex with them so you can intentionally get HIV and AIDS.
I'm
That's
willing
what
to
Tremere's
offer you a
doing.
large amount of money for your syphilis.
Tremere's doing this. Okay, get the giggles out.
Yeah.
Tremere's doing this, and it kind of works. He becomes a pseudo vampire, the same way that Nagaraja, who we will eventually talk about, do. And Tremere says this is enough. I've heard of the Antediluvians, and I want that. I want that kind of power. And they start going down the line. Which Antediluvian can we capture and drink the blood of to become super vampires? And they look at the list. They're saying, okay, Lasombra, no, we can't do him. Malkav's dead. Absimiliard, we don't know where he is. We lived on him. Arakel, no, we can't breach the Toreador's defenses. We start losing our minds when we make eye contact with them. Cappadocius. No, I don't want to deal with zombies today. We're not Cappadocius. Who's next on the list?
Anoia,
Hakim.
she's one with Mother Gaia.
Hakim, hell no.
Yep, no.
Who's next on the list? Well, it seems we've blown through the entire list. The only guy left is Saulot. I guess that's who we're going for.
So it was literally process of elimination. It was just bad luck for Saulot.
Yeah, they go after Saulot. It should have been you, Ilias. It should have been you, Bruja Antediluvian. It should have been you. But no, it was Saulot instead.
Yeah, they had to kill the one decent guy in all of the vampire embrace.
And it's a sweep. The Tremere, House Tremere, have Forces 5 magic. They're flying in the sky, dropping firebombs that explode with the force of nuclear explosions. That's the kind of magic they had.
Yeah, that's fucked. That's terrifying magic.
And they fly to where Saulot's being kept inside this temple, and they fling the coffin open. There he is. He's in day sleep, and he's in torpor, and he's stuck like that seemingly forever. Tremere clutches Saulot, brings his neck to his lips, drinks Saulot dry. Saulot wakes up in the middle of the process, tries to fight against Tremere through sheer willpower alone, but it fails. Saulot turns to dust in his coffin. And the best person to ever live in the world of darkness dies. But it's not over yet.
More glad that Nozomi Nishiyama's dead.
But the story's not over. Through the process of diablerie, you absorb the soul with the blood. Saulot's soul enters Tremere, and immediately starts attacking Tremere's soul directly. Tremere immediately goes to the comatose. He's in a fight for his own body against Saulot. And Tremere could win, but you remember all those Zamichi that he was eating?
Yes.
Those Zamichi were still alive in him. And they rebel against him and side with Saulot in the fight against Tremere.
So that's why the Salubri and the Zamichi get along so well.
Yeah, even though the Zamichi and Salubri hated each other before this, they realized that they had a common enemy, this new House Tremere, that ruined their lives. And over the course of 900 years, Saulot battles Tremere for control over Tremere's body. And sure enough, the process did work. All of Tremere's followers, who are partaking in his spell, become vampires of a new Clan Tremere. But in the process of doing so, their souls, their avatars, are destroyed in doing so.
So they lose all their arret.
That stage 6 arret and beyond, that's gone. And there is no recovering that. You can't even rewind time to do that because you no longer have access to that sphere.
Yeah, so they basically fucked them out of all their magic.
Yeah, you ruined the Salubri and you ruined yourselves at the same time. And the Tremere quickly realize, fuck. We screwed the pooch. They look around and they realize that everyone is about to stick their fangs against them. Saulot was pretty well beloved in vampire society, and the Tremere just destroyed that. And the Tremere realize we need to act fast. Tremere's down. Goratrix takes the lead and says we need to start advertising our propaganda campaign today. We need to tell people, oh no, the Salubri weren't the good people you thought you were, that they were. They were soul stealers that were trying to corrupt you. And we know about corruption, something the worm. And once again, it's that Gnostic bullshit that I hate, saying, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? It's that constant reverse Socrates where you're not enforcing understanding, you're trying to destroy understanding, and you know what you're doing when you do that.
Yeah, they're basically gaslighting everybody into saying, no, the Salubri were actually bad.
And it works. They start with the Bruja, because of course the fucking Bruja. and then it moves to Nosferatu, and then it moves to every other vampire clan until eventually the Tremere wrestle control. And they force their way into vampire society. They start kissing up to the Ventrue and the Toreador specifically and say, I have all this new magic. We found a way to use our blood to cast Forces magic, the only sphere of magic we still have control over. And with this, we can form an alliance and start taking over the world together. And they end up coercing the Ventrue and the Toreador into signing that deal.
Yeah.
And the deal is genocide the entire Salubri clan.
Fuck.
And do you want to know how many Salubri are alive today in Europe?
How many?
7.
I beg your fucking pardon. 7.
That includes Raziel.
Well, at least Raziel's still alive.
Yeah, Raziel sees what's going on and realizes that there's nothing she can say, there's nothing she can do to fight the Tremere. So she does the smart thing. She goes into torpor and makes sure she doesn't tell anybody where she's resting this time.
And so she's sort of waiting right now.
Yeah, she's put herself in a time capsule saying, please open me when the Tremere are no longer on the planet.
Which is honestly the smart thing to do at this point.
Exactly, and the other surviving Salubri, that's how like a plot hook where like your storyteller can go wherever he wants with the other 6. But yeah, the Salubri just drop like flies, and the Tremere have the blood sorcery and the blood rituals, so they can just find out the name and face of a Salubri and kill them remotely from home.
Fuck that. So I remember asking you about it when we were first starting to get into Vampire. And you brought up the Salubri as the good guys, and you told me expressly that I could not play it because I like playing good characters. Yes. And then I found out why. Because Salubri is the hard mode of Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
Almost as difficult as playing a Thin Blood. Like, a Salubri, you get some incredible powers with it, but at the disadvantage that no one trusts you.
Exactly, because of that propaganda campaign with the Tremere. They've resurfaced into Sabbat, but that is a very tenuous relationship they have with the Sabbat. You have those 6 Salubri, where at least one of them had to be an elder of the warrior caste, who started siring other Salubri when the coast was clear, and they thought they had a chance of fighting back against the Tremere. The Salubri today side with the Sabbat, and only the Sabbat. They don't trust the Anarchs. And the reason why they're siding with the Sabbat is because the Sabbat is the most vocal in their hatred for the Camarilla. The Tzimisce in particular fucking hate the Tremere. And that's because they lost their little magic war against the Tremere that we'll talk about later. Later down the line in a different episode. But they have a friend. They believe in the enemy of the enemy is my friend. The Tzimisce, once again, that's the kind of friend that you don't want to have. Even when we were playing Vampire the Masquerade, how many people in the coterie actually liked Vigo?
I think we were all like Colton when Vigo told him how he came to be was just terrified of him the whole time, especially because he kept making hand soup.
Yeah, especially like you're walking around in our vampire game, and you have Vigo Corinth, and this is a guy who's expressly telling you about his fantasies to dominate the world and eventually devour the elders and antediluvians in hopes of becoming a god on Earth. And you're thinking, this is a hero?
Oh God, no! Not. He's a player character, yeah, but he is not a good person.
You're thinking, under any other circumstances, I would have nothing to do with this guy.
Yeah, we are here by happenstance alone. I mean, the hand soup is very nice. I will admit that you're very good at that. But Christ, ma, you give me the creeps.
And that's kind of the relationship they have with the Tzimisce, where under any normal circumstances, they would have nothing to do with the Tzimisce. But because of their mutual hatred for the Tremere, they work together. And the La Sombra, La Sombra. I mean, They're sociopaths. They're psychopaths. Uh, they're fair weather friends.
Yes.
We can go more into detail about that later.
Yeah, we will get into
But
that momentarily.
as for the healer cast, well, there's still some healers out there, but they're doing the best they can to stay secret. The reason why you have such a hard time in the Sabbat, and especially if you're an independent Salubri, is because that propaganda myth has been mutated. The Tremere have said that the Salubri blood is very tasty, and if you are to diabolize a Salubri, it will give you power. But you're not allowed to do it in the Camarilla. But then again, maybe the prince and the primogens aren't looking, and that Salubri over there, I can sneak a little bit of diablerie. Nobody needs to know in the Camarilla. And the Sabbat, well, of course, they're serial diabolizers. I mean, bombs away.
Yep.
Enjoy looking over your back the entire time you're in the Sabbat.
Yes. So if you're playing as a Salubri, you are never going to have an easy time no matter what party you're with. Every single one of everybody else involved in that game is thinking about 5 different ways to kill you to take your powers.
Mm-hmm. It's like the reverse of playing an Assamite, where when an Assamite is in the party, everyone in the party is scared of the Assamite because they don't know when the Assamite's going to freak out and diabolize them. The Salubri is freaking out because they don't know when their coterie is going to diabolize them.
Yes. Like, we had a very aloof and fun episode with Ravnos. The Salubri is just current objective, survive.
Exactly. Survive and see how many days you can eventually last. The modern Salubri, all they can do in Europe and America is the minute they've been compromised and the Camarilla knows they exist, they have to quickly find somebody, anybody off the street, and sire them, pick them up, very quickly inform them what they are as a vampire, and then let that new vampire diabolize them.
Yes, they basically have to make sure that the same amount of Salubri exist no matter what happens to them. Like,
You know what is a perfect movie example of this?
What's that?
It Follows.
I feel like I've seen that one. What was that one about?
It's the STD that takes the form of a ghostly killer that chases you forever.
I have heard of that. I remember that, but I don't.
Yeah.
God, where do I remember that from?
Yeah, it's that the only way to escape it is to have sex with somebody else, pass the STD onto them. They become the next target, and then you have to like keep going down the road. But eventually, that person will die, and then the monster comes after you.
Yeah, that is really wild. I gotta go back and watch. That sounds like an interesting movie. I have to go back and watch that.
Oh yeah, it's very much about like shame, like sexual immorality. It's like deeper than some of its parts.
Yeah, it sounds incredible. I'll have to give it a look. See.
And going down the line with Salubri, this is how the story ends. It ends on a cliffhanger.
Yes. The Salubri are
right?
in some dire fucking straits right now.
The Transylvania Chronicles, Saulot regains control over Tremere's body. And Saulot, in the coffin that they buried Tremere in, forces his way out. Like, just imagine like his giant fist punching through the stone as he shoves the lid off of him, drags himself out. Saulot looks back at his body and finds that he has mutated from the battle that he's been having with the Zamichi inside of him with Tremere into this giant maggot with fingernails and teeth coming out at random parts of his body. He looks like a Fomori when he comes out.
Bringing that old picture back up.
Yeah. And there's a picture in the Tremere source book where it just this Catholic church where there's a worm in the middle of the church. That's a metaphor for what Salubri looks like. Not Saulot looks like.
Yeah, it's
I'm typing in
all kinds of
Tremere worm. Yeah, I found the worm picture.
Which clan book was it that was so fucked up that we can't use any pictures from it? Was that Zamichi?
Zamichi.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, here's the worm.
It's kind of a small image, but yeah, that is a big damn worm.
And here is the image in higher definition. There we have it.
All right.
Yeah, that's what Saul looks like when he crawls out.
Bro, that's
And
fucked up. I hate the face. The face looks too good for the rest of it.
yeah, it's nasty as shit.
Yeah, it's messed up.
And Saulot looks at himself and then realizes, wait a minute, I've got Zamichi inside of me. He talks with the Zamichi, pushes his body back into place, and does he have vicissitude? Uh-oh. If he does, we're not told like explicitly if he does or not. But Saulot pushes himself up, feels his forehead, he feels the third eye go back into place. Okay, good. And then he gets up and he starts walking and walking until he finds himself in Romania. He looks up and he senses an aura coming off of a castle. It's the same castle that Dracula from World of Darkness used as his base of operation, tying back into with the Shadow Lords, right?
Yes.
And Saulot walks into the castle, throws the door open, immediately mind controls anyone who's in the castle already into serving him, walks over, sits down on the throne, puts his chin on his knuckle, and thinks, what is he going to do next? He knows what's happened to to his clan. He felt every psychic scream when a Salubri died. He could feel that during his fight with Tremere. He knows that his clan is absolute shambles. He has no idea where Raziel is. And he thinks, should I try to help vampires reach Golconda again? Or should I turn my back on humanity? The worst human possible, a transhumanist who thought he could overcome God and overcome existence, did this to me and destroyed everything that I tried to build. And that's where the cliffhanger ends. Does Saulot turn evil after this happens?
That would be a spectacular story to tell. Like to be one of the few remaining Saulot or the Salubri that managed to find Saulot, and the final boss, so to speak, would be trying to either, depending on what kind of character you have, either talk Saulot into coming back and being the light of the world and the symbol of hope for vampires, or to, come with us, skip town, and kill the people who betrayed you.
And you kind of get different versions of Saulot come Times of Judgment. There's different scenarios in Times of Judgment Gehenna, where Saulot is portrayed as either another monster antediluvian who's participating in the destruction of the world, or the one guy who can prevent Gehenna from destroying everything.
All it takes is one fucking leech. Who would have thought?
And there's no canonical answers to what happens to Saulot after this.
Honestly, I think that that's better for like storytelling's sake. Like that's the perfect spot to build a story around. After all that history, the Salubri are fucking cool as shit.
Mm-hmm. These guys are fantastic. It's the coolest clan that you can never play.
Yeah. Who wrote the clan book Salubri?
Clan book Salubri, I'm going to pull up the writing credit for this.
Yes, because whoever on White Wolf staff wrote this, fucking bravo. This is genius.
Multiple people went into this, but a name I can name right now is Cynthia Summers.
Cynthia Summers, excellent fucking work. Clan book Salubri is amazing.
So pulling up Clan book Tremere, Keith Herber, Terry Thornley, Brian Campbell's name is attached to this project.
Yes.
Let's see, and revised edition, Who Wrote You? Thank you, Drive Through RPG. Can you please tell me who the author is? Jess Henning.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I said the name wrong. Jess Heinig.
Jess Heinig. Well, thank you all very much for the beautiful work on Clan book Salubri.
Yeah, and this is the story that got me hooked on World of Darkness. Where
I can see why.
I said,
this is my so answer. Multifaceted. It is amazing.
This is my exit from D&D, where I'm getting sick to damn death of playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Especially with how every source book is becoming so saccharine, where it feels like, well, what the fuck's the point of becoming an adventure party anymore? But this kind of storytelling is what made me jump off of D&D and onto World of Darkness instead.
I really like the switch because like I still play D&D live with my sister and her girlfriend, and I have a fucking great time there. They're still pretty good at keeping the stakes high, no question. Like we almost had our barbarian soul shattered, and the only reason he didn't is because I had Death Lord, and it worked on keeping his soul intact when he was fighting a bear spirit in order to get the bear totem. That's just a little off topic from the video, but the thing, and I keep saying this about the World of Darkness, and the thing that I really love about it, you might be big and scary. You could be a blood-sucking vampire. You could be a whirlwind of death as a werewolf. You could be a human hunter trying to take back your world. But there is always something in the World of Darkness that is bigger and scarier than you.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're a mage, then, fuck it.
Well, wait until we talk about the Void Engineers.
Oh, they're having a good time.
Yeah. When we talk about the Void Engineer episode, way down the line, that's gonna blow your mind when I tell you what's in that book.
And we get to listen to space rock the whole time. We're gonna listen to Clutch and Yuri Gagarin. It's gonna be tight.
You're gonna listen to the soundtrack of Bloodborne while I'm reading that part.
Fighting some eldritch horror in space. It's going to be tight.
And I believe that's it for the story. It's up to you, the storyteller, to decide where it goes from here.
Yes. So, does Clan Salubri meet their bitter, cold end? Does Saulot come out of hiding and decide to be a beacon of hope for vampires across the world? Or does evil finally reign supreme and he uses his powers for evil? What shall it be? Up to you, storyteller. So, let's talk about relationships, shall we?
Yes.
Okay, so, as we've said, the Tremere have slandered and propagandized and demonized the Salubri to the moon and back. But there are still a few friendly faces down the road. As the book will say directly, the Salubri really don't know who their friends are anymore. And I love this quote from the book. And I'm going to read it verbatim. Those who trust past alliances will find themselves betrayed, but those who make a clean break from history are friendless. And we'll talk about being friendless later. The views of who to trust and who not to trust differs wildly among factions, but believing the worst about others is key to survival as a Salubri. As we said, if you're in the Sabbat, watch your back at all times. The few remaining healers struggle to maintain their own optimism, and the watchers of the Salubri tend to keep to their own. Starting off, we have the Assamites. The Salubri supported the Crusade in the Middle Ages, and some find that was a terrible, terrible mistake. They know that the Assamites will never forgive them for what they've done during the Crusades due to their godliness. And they did find that they have a lot of respect for the Assamites. On the very, very, very rare chance that you find an Assamite that is willing to forgive and allow a Salubri to learn under them, take that chance. Their powers are unparalleled, as we've discussed multiple times in the past.
Kyle, can you zoom in on that paragraph of the Assamites and look at the clan symbol behind that, by the way?
Yes.
Why couldn't that have been the main symbol for the Assamites from the get-go?
I don't know. It looks pretty tight, though.
That's a mandala. It looks so good.
It does. It looks cool as hell. So, yes.
And you also have the Salubri thinking, hey, maybe helping you form Islam is a bad idea, considering that you have become so dogmatic, you've now turned your face against everybody, which includes us.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Thank you for the Bali Wars. It's I realize what this is.
What?
It's America funding the Taliban to fight Russia, and then once Russia's gone, the Taliban turns against you.
Really that's absolutely right, is what that is. Okay. Moving on from them, we go in alphabetical orders. We have the Bruja. So, evidently, the Bruja and Salubri have maintained good relations since the days of Enoch. And they still continue to be friends. according to legend, some of the Salubri, actually no, Samuel studied under Bruja warriors while the healers would help the Bruja in battle against the Bali. So there's a long history between the Bruja and the Salubri. And the Bruja elders were terribly insulted as how the Tremere treated the Salubri. As you know, the Bruja are always the consummate devil's advocates of vampire society. They hate they don't like the Tremere almost as much as the Sabici and the Salubri do.
If only your dumbass kids could have shared your same sentiment.
And they go into detail with that in recent times the Salubri and Bruja's fortunes have been falling. The Salubri are legendary. Most neonates have never met one, let alone know what one is. And most of the Bruja neonates, as it says in the book, bear little resemblance to their sires of old. Very few are willing to help the Salubri nowadays. Some can manage to find safety in their ranks for those that don't know the full story, but God help you if you're a healer cast Salubri and you run out your usefulness. Because more than likely the Bruja will just discard you and you'll be back to being on your own. So
and you have Bruja back then. I'm King Leonidas of Sparta, and I'm leading my giant... no, sorry, I got the wrong way around. That was the Ventru. I am Aristotle, and I am the world's greatest researcher. I've come to learn about the existence of God and how a society can only prosper after talking to God. The Bruja today. Do you know that Bill Gates only created viruses on purpose so he could sell us antivirus?
Basically, well, I don't know. That sounds like more a Glasswalker thing to say, but the Bruja would agree with him.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Cappadocians. The Salubri find the grave robbers to be both welcome colleagues and completely repulsive. They know that studying death is a necessary thing in order to make the process of healing more productive, but digging up corpses does absolutely nothing. They have a very tenuous relationship with the Cappadocians. They always are willing to trade with them for any of their information because of their studies of death. They know a lot. So barter with them for knowledge if you can. Some find them absolutely repugnant, however, and the only way you would shelter with a Cappadocian is out of sheer desperation. Their knowledge is useful, but the embrace of death makes them uneasy friends. Approach them with extreme caution.
Now, what's not in the book is their relationship with the Giovanni and the Harbingers of Skulls.
No, neither of those are in here.
Where the Giovanni's opinion is, hey, man, you see that guy over there? No, fuck that man.
Yeah, basically.
They pull out their pistol from their waistcoat and then shoot the guy.
They pull out the glizzy.
Yeah. But no, they're the Mafia. They have to use the Beretta.
Yeah, they're going to use a Beretta.
And you look at the Harbingers of Skulls. The Harbingers of Skulls are in the same boat as the Salubri. That's the one face in the in the Sabbat that you can actually trust. Because they know what it's like to be screwed over by another vampire clan and have your entire clan genocided in a single night. Because the same thing happened with the Cappadocians after Giovanni did his hostile takeover. So, behold, you have two guys who share a burning conviction to right what went wrong. And if you are playing a Sabbat game, if somebody is playing a Salubri or a Harbinger of Skull, have another player play the opposite one of those clans and have them talk to each other.
Yes. Give if you want to make it easier on somebody who's a seasoned vampire player and wants to make it a little bit easier on them, Harbinger of Skulls and Salubri in a Sabbat game. You at least have one friendly face amongst the group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On from then, we have since lost the... Actually, no. Because the book calls it Followers of Set and cut instead of the Setites, it's still technically in alphabetical order. Thank you very much. So, Setites. Working for Set already makes them an enemy. And some say that the Setites are just as bad, if not worse, than the Bali. Again, see the Ministry for more information. You know, Epstein didn't kill himself. The Setites killed him.
Yes.
I had to drop one.
I mean, you're not wrong. That's what would happen in the world of darkness.
Yes. Okay, so on occasion, a serpent claims to be fleeing the Sethites in an attempt to reform, because as we said, the Salubri are all about spreading the teachings of how did I forget the fucking word for it already?
Saulot?
No,
Goanda?
not Gokanda. Yes.
Yeah.
Because spreading Gokanda is the main goal of the Salubri, healing and learning, the Setites will come to them and attempt to pretend to be a reformer in order to entice the Salubri into their ways. Short of it all, don't trust the snakes. Fuck the snakes. Don't trust them.
Now, we call them snakes for a reason.
Yes, because they, not just because of Serpentis, but also because they are literal snakes in the grass.
Yeah, you guys fuck kids. Why would we ever trust you?
Exactly. Basically, yes.
Yeah.
The gangrel. So, as we said, for a while, they saw them up in Europe. They were living out like wolves, but they weren't wolves, but they were kind of wolves. They really didn't have all that much to do each other until it comes to light that, well, here's a little bit of a discrepancy here. We said in the Bruja that Samuel studied under Bruja warriors, but then later in the book, it says that there's an ancestral friendship from Samuel's days as a gangrel pupil, that there was a single gangrel who arrived from Germany to speak of a healer who had died while protecting the gangrel neonate from a usurper, which I imagine was the Tremere.
Not quite. It's probably a Diabolist. I'm going to say, well, given that it's Zemichi do all the time, I'm going to say it's a Zemichi for the story.
Yeah, they bring up usurpers a lot. I imagine that's just a Salubri term for a serial Diabolist.
Yes.
Okay. That's because I was confused about that when I was reading it. I didn't have a whole lot of context for it.
This was that, like, the Tremere did not form until, like, way after Samuel died.
Yeah. So, the gangrel seemed to know Raziel, or Raziel. How the fuck do I say her name?
Raziel.
Raziel. The gangrel, being native to Europe, seemed to know a lot about Raziel, and therefore, they are willing to talk to the Salubri at the very least. The Salubri, however, seem to like the gangrel, but the gangrel don't like them back. They're envious of the gangrel's fierce independence from all factions. They find them as very incredibly strong-willed people to have to live to live alone as much as they do, and they wish they would teach them how to live alone.
They've gone crazy from isolation and Enoya's mission of, I want you to be the apex predator over nature. It's very hard to reason with an old gangrel.
Yeah, yes it is. I mean, the gangrels are the closest to beasts. I keep thinking about our vampire game and how I made Colt the most self-loathing gangrel to ever live.
Yeah.
Which I think was kind of funny, but then again, he was a hunter prior to his embrace.
Yeah. Exactly. The worst fate he could have had.
Basically, yeah. He lost everything and then spent the whole game trying to get it back. Moving on from that, we have the Lasombra. They have very little good to say about the Lasombra. They are extremely untrustworthy. They see the Salubri as tools to do their bidding and try and cut them off and isolate them in order to get them desperate enough to come into their havens and get them to work for them. Very few will actually do their duty because I believe we said that it was the Lasombra who had infiltrated the Catholic Church.
Yes.
After the fall of Rome. Some of them actually do take their job as abbots and abbesses very seriously and will actually shelter a Salubri in need. But many more are just interested in using the Salubri for their powers, and the Salubri at this point just wonder how the Lasombra could keep using people until they eventually just run out of friends.
There's a funny story in regards to the Lasombra.
Yes.
The Paths of Enlightenment, that was inspired by Saulot learning Golconda, where different clans started thinking of their own ways to kill the beast to varying degrees of success. Where the Zamichi said, well, let's just willingly give in to the beast and just become monsters. And, well, behold, I guess you overcame the beast by merging with it. But the Lasombra invented the path and road of night. These two go in very different ways.
Well,
So,
okay. How so?
right, so the path of night, to explain what this is, making sure I've got the two right. The path of night is uh you turning into an angel of darkness, where you say, I am put on this world by God to kill. If God wanted you to live, he wouldn't have made me. And you fully embrace obtenebration. You fully embrace potence. You go around and you cause destruction because that's what you're put on this world to do. While the road of night is you saying, God has put me on this earth to protect people. I need to be an angel that comes from the darkness but isn't of it. And you go out and you do everything you can to defend humanity from other vampires. Guess which side of it you want out?
I imagine the path did.
The path did, and the road of night is very rare amongst Lasombra now.
I assume that's what Hieronymo Baseggio was, given how he actually seemed decent.
Yeah, the road of night is what he followed. And he tried to do that with Ruslan, but Ruslan used up Tenebration too many times and lost his mind.
Yeah. But I imagine some of that still lingers within him. I mean, he's kind of he's an absolute NPC, but it's in there somewhere.
You just have to figure out how to rewire his brain
Well, I mean,
to get it to work.
I mean, if Vigo can do it, and well, to be fair, he's also got Bacchus helping him as well, which I'm interested to see how that plays out. But I'm also terrified for Bacchus's safety. I understand he's lethally powerful, but you never know what could go wrong.
It's nice to see you care for your god. It's.
I'm sorry, I like him. He's a good man. I like him. Forgive me for getting emotionally attached to someone who I, spent some time with. Introduced me to a girl I like. Fuck.
Sex. Alcohol.
What more could a fan I want? We're very simple creatures, we are. Anyway.
And
what?
There you go, that's your Salubri. If it's a road, Lasombra, best friends. If it's a path, Lasombra, no. Yes,
basically. Like I said, it's like the very few that actually took their duty as abbots and abbesses seriously. So, after that, we have Malkavians. So as we know from history, they have always been intertwined from Saulot's first meeting with Malkav that helped cure him of his initial fits of madness. The Saulot are able to relieve Malkavians of their most wrenching bouts of madness. Some fight the hunters directly in order to keep them safe, and some are ridiculously ostentatious. Healers tend to run into Malkavians a lot, but they know to keep the Malkavians at arm's length. They know that, okay, I will be here to help him because it is my duty, but after that, I need to move on because I don't want to be around them for too much longer due to their erratic behavior. There's no enmity between them, as Malkavians have a tendency to betray themselves first, which usually winds up screwing over the Salubri in question. So care for Malkav's children where you can, because God knows they need it.
And back when Saulot cut things off with Malkav, Malkav wanted to stay friends, but Saulot made up his mind. And because
Malkav betrayed Cain, and Saulot had a lot of respect for Cain.
And Malkav still had respect for Saulot, so he told his kids through the Madness Network. Yet he died in Jerusalem, but he stuck around because Malkav can see the fourth wall. He knows he's in a storybook, and he found a way to rig the system to where he would never die by saying, my body is dead, but my mind exists within all of my kids now.
Yep. Hence why they're all batshit insane.
And whenever they see a Salubri, they start getting visions of Saulot. specifically Malkav's time that he spent with Saulot.
Yeah, so they know that, okay, this is somebody who A, helped me, B, knows my Antediluvian, and C, can help me, weather my madness a little bit better. Let's see what I can do.
And Malkavian is the one person in the Camarilla who won't go along with the Tremere's genocide.
Well, yeah, because they know, because Malkav can tell them.
Yeah, the Malkavians know everything.
Yes. Coming up next, we have the Nosferatu. The Salubri have a history with the Nosferatu almost as long as their association with the Malkavians. Nosferatu often sought shelter in churches that the Salubri would tend throughout history, and the Nosferatu likewise would help the Salubri during the Tremere hunts. It's important to always profit from the Nosferatu's gossip because they tend to have loose lips and even looser alliances. Always good to have a couple of friends with open lips. They have an odd sort of honor in them, and they take pleasure in thwarting the arrogant and overconfident, and they're always willing to help. They just wish that they could use their Valerin to do more to help them in return. Like it says in the book, and I think this is actually a really sweet sentence from Genados. Such pure faith in such tainted shells, it makes me weep to think of it. Would that Saulot's gifts would let me heal the lepers of their curse as Christ healed the leper in Jerusalem. There's a kind of sweet relationship between the Salubri and the Nosferatu.
Then again, how sweet is that relationship going to stay? Because
of the Tremere.
The sentiment with the Nosferatu is self-preservation. I need to stay alive as long as possible.
Yeah.
So, if your relationship with the Salubri is going to result in you getting killed, you're going to sell the Salubri out. That's what the Nosferatu is going to do.
Yeah. But the Salubri do like the Nosferatu just because, they're willing to help when they need them. But they also know
the Nosferatu tend to be good people unless they're the resentful sort, but
yes.
You typically have a good time with them.
Yeah, like as we learned in the Werewolf game, like the Nosferatu we encountered wasn't really doing all that much.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have gone deeper down the Camarilla rabbit hole. Sorry, Meep. If we had talked to it more and we hadn't gotten brainwashed by the other admins from the Shadow Lords. But I was dumb. I didn't have enough in subterfuge, so we kind of fucked that up. Grim was the smart one out of us, which is why he's the back alpha.
Yeah. This is why this stuff is so fun, because with me writing the story and you doing player choice, the story really can just go anywhere.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I already have a plan to get my stuff back. It's a very simple plan. I just need a lot of bread and a cigarette. That's all I need.
And we got the bread, man.
But yeah, I'll just sit on the front porch and wait for another raccoon to show up, and then I'm like, here's an extra month's worth of bread. If you can get me my stuff back, you can have all of this bread. It'll be yours. I just want that plant back and my guitar and my clothes. Plant. Hey, that alone plant is my only friend. Okay, that's not true. What?
Tell me about the Ravnos.
Yes, Clan Ravnos. Neither clan can really figure each other out. Every attempt to forge relations has ended in misunderstandings and backhanded insults. Some Ravnos believe that the hunt for the Salubri is likewise a hunt against the Ravnos. See the Ravnos video for more information. The Ravnos don't like being in the same place, for more than a minute. Actually, they can't be in the same place for more than a minute. Therefore, they are likely to run across a Salubri, go, sup, and then book it. Because they know that being close to somebody who's constantly under threat of death is bad for survival. However, the Ravnos are willing to help some fugitive Cainites, while others will just tell them to get the hell out of here. The only issue is that the Salubri don't like the fact that the Ravnos take too much pride in being tricksters. They don't think before acting and can be kind of useless in that way. However, the Ravnos do have a habit of helping them out when they least expect. If you've done something for a Ravnos in the past, you can count on them to pay their debts. But
And there's still talking about the Asian Ravnos with this. Keep this in mind because they've met both sides.
Yes. But also be wary. The Ravnos are pretty strong, and if you cross one, they are very, very painful to deal with. So best to avoid them when you can. If you can help one, help and then leave, because they'll pay it forward. But if they don't like you, get the hell out of there.
The reason why relationships never took off is because the Ravnos have the one-track mind of, in Asia, it's the Holy War. Help us fight the Kuei Jin. But we don't want to fight the Kuei Jin. We want to help the victims of the Kuei Jin. We're not concerned about the victims. We got to fight the Kuei Jin and the Yama Kings, and we got to fight the Worm. And it's the side of Samuel that they didn't like. That's what Samuel used to be, and it puts the Salubri off. You go over to Europe, and I think we know why. It's because the Ravnos are cat burglars and thieves who just take your stuff whenever they see the opportunity to. And I was telling you about Jesus, and then you stole my holy sword from Jerusalem. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, basically.
That was a one-of-a-kind sword. I can't get that from anywhere else.
The Ravnos remind me of this Twitter bit that Count Dankula did, talking shit about Vash, and he's pretending to be a pikey. And that's part of the inspiration for Tyler was that video, along with what was Mickey's last name? And Mickey from Snatch, I forget his last name. Was it O'Neill?
Mouse.
No. that was our very short Ratkin one shot.
See, I'm pulling this up right now.
What?
O'Neill.
Yeah, Mickey O'Neill. That's what I thought it was. Anyway, moving on from that, we have the Toreador. So the Toreador, they try the patience of the Salubri. They lack care for spiritual matters. They have a disinterest of the Tremere's purge. They don't really give a shit. Rarely should you ever expect aid from a Toreador. And there's rumors of the Akasin scoff at the notion of Samuel refusing to show favor to one of the Rows. Evidently, there's a story in the book that Akasin, went to perform for Saulot and fucked it up. So they were like, okay, these guys aren't worth our time anymore.
There's also a lore story. I left this out of the lore. I'm going to include it now.
Yes.
There's a 3-sentence story in there that Malkav, during his friendship with Saulot, said, "Hey, I would like to introduce you to my sister. This is Arakel." And Saulot said, "Okay, Arakel, let me tell you about Jesus and God." And Jesus isn't a thing yet, so I'm just going to tell you about God. And he's having this. He's trying to have this discussion with Arakel, and Arakel is just staring at his chest the entire time. Where, as it turns out to Saulot's horror, Arakel is sexually attracted to Saulot and isn't listening to a word he says. So the next time Saulot comes over, he's wearing a burqa the entire time. And Arakel loses interest in him, and he says, I'm sorry, Malkav, I don't think it's going to work out between me and your sister.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
that sounds like such a Saulot thing to do. I really love that.
Yeah. He's fully abstinent.
Yeah. So, in short, the Toreador, they're kind of fucking useless. You can help them if you like, but don't expect anything in return.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, then we have their sworn mortal enemies. Well, immortal enemies, the Tremere. The gross violation of Saulot's name was a crime against all Cainites. Their compounding wickedness makes them unworthy of redemption. Kill the shit out of them. They are selfish, prideful, and thoughtless. Have no pity for the blood of the Tremere that you spill, for the vitae that you water the earth with. Fuck the Tremere.
They say kill. That's a tall order. The Zemician Order of Hermes tried, and both of them failed.
Well, yeah, but they're still gonna try.
Yeah, you're going to need probably the entire Geru Nation just to put the Tremere down.
Yes. As Genedios remarks, Utterly selfish, utterly prideful, completely without conscience. Do not ask me to have the slightest crumb of pity for them when their doom inevitably reaches out for them. I hope that Tremere chokes on Saulot's soul. That's
She
cool as
did.
fuck. He absolutely did, and it was better for it. The world was better for it. The Tzimisce, their weird, strange friendship. They honed their knowledge of Valerin through witnessing Tzimisce torture firsthand, and the Tzimisce allowed the healers to study under them. Tzimisce customs of hospitality have served the Salubri very well, and they share common cause against the Tremere. They have vastly different ideas of how to go about it, and there's always been rumors of a deeper alliance between Tzimisce and the Salubri, but they've been rumors for millennia at this point. You can learn a great deal from Tzimisce, and they hope to stand beside them one day when they come together to kill all the Tremere. They disagree on many things, but Tzimisce are typically friendly towards Salubri. So basically, it's like the Tzimisce's sitting there in their nice little haven. You know, Salubri runs in, slams the door closed, and Tzimisce swirls about their wine on their furniture made of people. And they go, "Oh, wonderful. Oh, Salubri, you're healer cast, aren't you? I can smell it. I can smell the viscera. Spectacular. Come with me." And they take them down into the torture chamber. And they've got the rack. They've got the breaking wheel. They've got this thing with the spikes that pierce through the feet while they, And then they've got the Chinese water torture. And they go, "So this man here, I captured him off of the street a week ago after he was stumbling home drunk from the bar. I cut his rib cage open, and I've been able to clearly identify. I have the pins here." And meanwhile, the Salubri's sitting there with a notepad just like drawing the organs and the nervous system and the blood everywhere. And they go, "Oh, this is a very pleasant conversation. Thank you very much for the information on this specimen. Will you put him out of his misery, please?" "No, I'm not quite done with him yet." And that's about the Salubri and the Tzimisce.
Now, the reason why the Tzimisce have such a fascination with the Salubri is because their Valerin is able to reverse some of the stuff they can do with vicissitude. When you go into the super in-depth transformations like their war ghouls or the chairs, you can't really fix that. No. But the minor inflictions, like causing somebody's skin to grow over their eyes and blind them, a Salubri can fix that. And the Tzimisce found out about that and said, "Do that again." And after observing the Salubri, they figured out what Valerin was doing. Its vicissitude on the soul is what it is. And the Tzimisce became super fascinated with it. They said, "We're going to put a clan-wide don't kill order on the Salubri. The minute you see one, grab it, pull it back to the castle, treat it like an honored guest. We need to learn everything about this because this is the most fascinating thing I've ever seen in my life. They're like us, but different."
I really want to see Vigo talk to a Salubri. I think that'd be the best conversation ever.
Yeah, it's like if you sat down and had dinner with Darth Vader in episode 5 of Star Wars.
Yeah, basically is what that is. Yeah. I love I love that friendship between the Tzimisce and the Salubri. That is hysterical to me.
It's the friend that you would never talk to willingly, but he seems to like you and you don't know why.
Yeah. Going back to Genedios, because I really like their narration for this. My time amongst the Tzimisce has been informative, if not entirely comfortable. We disagree on many things, such as the value of mortal life and the uses of torture, but I suspect my hostess welcomed our nightly debates. If I could have closed my ears to the sounds in her cellars, I should have been perfectly comfortable. Like I said, "Oh, please come in. Look at how I've mangled this individual. Can you show me that thing you do all the time?" They're very good friends.
You remember playing Killer 7 and the sounds you would hear in the trailer?
Yes, that was scary as shit.
Yeah, that's the Sumichi Haven.
Uh, Please go back and watch the very quick, like 30-second highlight reel of me and John playing Killer 7. That about sums up the experience. Thank you, Suda. Very cool. Anyway,
And the
yes.
Giovanni are not in the book, so the Ventru will have to do for my favorite.
Yes, the Ventru. The Ventru speak well of nobility and honor, and some will actually follow through. They have sheltered Salubri and turned away the Tremere hunting them down. But they listen to the lies that branded Salubri the Infernalists, and it's a pity that they see their nobility as just mere office work. The Salubri mentioned that honor is not something to be put aside after a day of work. It's something to be held on to, something to be proud of. And the Ventru are wary of the Salubri due to the lies of the Tremere, but there are some out there that you might be able to trust.
You could get along more with the Ventru anti-Tribute, actually, because those are typically the only good people you can find in the Sabbat.
Yes.
But it's because they are Knight Templars. They carry knightly auras about them. They dropped the King mask for a Knight mask. And that's the best chance you have to get along with the Ventru.
Yes. I'm going to quote Genedios again because this dude just drops banger after banger. I love this guy. I shall never forget the night that my host, a man with whom I had many a long discussion concerning his path to Golconda, looked at me with distinct fear. I learned that he had received a letter of warning from the regent of a local chantry regarding the infernalist under his roof. I chose to spare him the indignity of throwing me out, and I rode out of his lands crouched under a wagon load of hay. So, some of the Ventru you can trust, until it comes to it that, the Tremere start blackmailing them, at which point you need to make yourself scarce. It's like the Ventru want to believe the Salubri, but just can't.
And then who's next on the list of clans?
We have the one that's arguably just as bad as, if not worse, than the Tremere, the Bali.
If I may, for a second.
Yes.
These are demons.
Yes. The Salubri, no matter what in their lineage or occupation, agree on a single point. The Bali are demons. They are brought up... Excuse me. They are brought up on the tales of the Bali Wars. Each and every Salubri is. And the Bali sought to misuse the tales of the Bali against the Salubri. Kill them if you can. Rescue. Hey, excuse me, I got... sorry.
You're sneezing, I'm giggling.
Yeah. So, kill the Bali if you can. Rescue whoever they have hurt.
And compare this to the modern day Bali, where they got what they wanted. And that's the issue. They realized that they didn't actually want what they wanted, and are now trying to appease the demons that they summoned.
Yes. I mean, they don't have much of a choice at this point. Moving on from that, the Garrow. Werewolves are very confusing to them, especially to the healers. They usually come into battle with them when they're on the long road traveling the forests. But the best way to avoid confrontation with the Garrow is to keep low, heal any animals that might be injured, and avoid drinking from them however long you can. They've been told that the Garrow are intelligent, but they haven't really seen any examples of that. However, Genedios, my boy, as he quotes, I encountered one of their number in Greece, a woman who called herself a child of the great Earth Mother that the Greeks had worshipped long ago. We sheltered together for a while, but it could not last. Their theology is complex and beautiful, their gifts of healing remarkable, and we spoke a great deal about mortals. I should give much to return to those nights. They bring up the children of Gaia by name.
Mm-hmm.
They bring up the children of Gaia by name.
The COG.
Yes.
One of the best groups you could talk to now. Imagine instead if they found the Shadow Lords.
The Shadow Lord, I imagine, would have just killed them on sight.
I'm imagining what the Shellord would have done is that would have reached over, clutched the shoulder of the Salubri, dragged them over, and said, "You work for us now. That Valerin ability, we're not letting that go."
Basically, yeah, the same thing that we have with Freya now. It's like,
Mm.
holy shit, you just kept Storm from dying twice. We need to keep you alive at all costs. Excuse me, I gotta
Yeah.
blow my nose. Pardon me. Keep on talking about the werewolves for a
Yeah,
sec.
you walk into battle and you have a Shadow Lord that's holding a Salubri like on a leash with a collar around their neck. But I'm also thinking, with this Salubri, I'm imagining there's like a dialogue you could have where the werewolves are looking at the werewolf. So the werewolves are looking at the vampire, and you have your gung ho get a Fenris type or your red talon who's in cross form, who's got the Salubri in his hand, ready to kill it, and then you got the children guy right next to it saying, "Don't kill it. Why should I kill it? It's on the worm." Well, did you sense worm on it? No. Well, you should sense the worm. You sense the worm. There's no worm. Oh, you should kill it because it's a leech. No, it's healing us. It healed us. But it's a leech, so we gotta kill it. Well, why do we gotta kill it? And then the guy finisher Red Talon has got
A dial tone noise.
Yeah, dial tone thinking about whether or not they should kill the Salubri.
And the Salubri's like, bro, I was just trying to go to the next town. I'm trying to heal people, bro. Okay.
It's of the worm, but it's not of the worm. But it is.
But
it's
it
not.
isn't.
Yeah. We'll spend a long time staring at that Salubri, trying to figure out whether or not you're going to kill it.
That's when you do the reverse Socrates again. Well, how do you know? But you don't. Mages.
You've just been told this by your ancestors. You don't know what you're talking about anymore.
Exactly. Mages. Theurgy or country superstition is acceptable forms of magic for the Salubri. However, of course, we know that the Tremere spawned from the Hermetics. So why should they give any mages the benefit of the doubt? As it turns out, the ones that they have met that are schooled in theurgy are remarkable for their faith and their scholarship, but they're too eager to practice on anything. So they couldn't really trust them, especially even those that say they hate the Tremere. They still can't trust them. It's like some of them are incredible scholars, but there's no way we can trust them.
Unless it's the Celestial Chorus, in which case you both have guys who have met Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Therefore, that's the one alliance you have. Maybe the Akashic Brotherhood as well. Celestial Chorus, that's heresy, no. Order of Hermes, that entire thing is based off heresy, no. Dream Speakers, that kind of falls into country superstition. I think it could work.
Yeah.
Euthanatos, that's another maybe. I'm leaning more towards no. The Verbena, absolutely not, because the Verbena are going to use the Salubri for spell components.
Yes.
Virtual Adepts, no. And Sons of Ether, no. The Sons of Ether would love to study the vampire, but they'll ultimately kill them.
Yes.
Any member of the Democracy, not going to happen. That's reality deviance for a vampire to exist.
Yep.
The Nafandi.
Abso-fucking-lutely not.
And the Marauders. I read more about the Marauders. These are mages that went insane after their awakening. Or they awakened while having a serious mental illness that warped their paradigm. And they cause paradox while being immune to the paradoxes that they cause.
That sounds fucked.
It's an effect that they can't turn off.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
I'm sure the Salubri would love it, like, see a Marauder and have it spare them, and then the minute the Marauder turns around, they're going to run like hell away from it.
Yes.
You can't... It takes an entire coterie to put down one Marauder.
Yeah, they're scary as shit. Moving on from that, we have Wraiths. Salubri are usually horrified at the mere mention of Restless Dead in the Nights. They see talk of them as bad luck or a premonition of death. Some Salubri have encountered the souls of former companions, and that's only made the fear of them worse. However, there were some very rare Salubri that actually were able to speak with wraiths and be able to help them. But such gifts have been, such gifts are as feared as they are valued as they are limited. That is a very, very rare thing for a Salubri to be able to talk with a wraith.
You know, it'd be a horror story.
What's that?
I have a warrior Salubri who meets the ghost of somebody they killed.
That's a very common horror story. It's like the River of Souls in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah, where it turns out the person you killed had a strong will and is back for revenge, or the person you killed was innocent.
Yeah, it was the fight with the end, wasn't it?
The fight with the sorrow.
Yeah, that's it. The sorrow.
Yeah.
What was the end? The end was a sniper, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got the two mixed up.
That's it.
I've played Metal Gear Solid 3 a grand total of once, and I didn't finish it.
It's probably the only Metal Gear Solid game that you'd like.
More than likely, yes, because Metal Gear Solid 2 just pissed me off.
That's my favorite, and I know you would hate Metal Gear Solid 4. You would hate that game.
I know that Konami was fucking with it the whole time to the point in which there was
Not 5.
No,
not 5. 4.
No. In Metal Gear Solid 4, like, Kojima wanted to put a little bit. Well, actually, no. They started it without him, and the game got so convoluted that there wound up being so many more cutscenes in order to explain everything that went on in the game that Kojima himself put in because he realized what Konami had done to it, and he was like, "This game is bullshit. None of it makes sense." So now I have to go back and I have to build cutscenes in order to stitch these scenes together to make a cohesive narrative.
Yeah.
So they kind of fucked him over on that one. And also,
So,
my buddy picked up Metal Gear Survive at a GameStop for like $4. And
as it should.
yeah, it's boring as sin. Like, it looks, if they would have dropped the Metal Gear moniker and had some more faith in their ideas instead of being shitty, that game might have been something. It plays a lot like Rust in third person.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it had something, but they just did not have the talent or the time or the budget to make anything work. Like, yeah, sure, giant desert map full of zombies. You could do that. Time is money. Reuse the Afghanistan assets. That's cool. Anyway, off topic.
Sounds like a pretty banal idea.
It is a little bit, but, it could have been something,
And speaking of that, we'll have the guys who fight banality.
Yes, the Fae. So, fairies avoid the Salubri mostly because of their strong faith and their overly religious backgrounds. Such avoidance is, kind of makes the Salubri sad because they find the Fae to be a wonderful cure to any sadness and banality. Both Scatha Columkill and Genedios have stories about it. Scatha remarks that, "I recall a time when I encountered a mighty creature while traversing a forest. He called himself a troll and challenged me for the right to ford a river. I admired his nobility and left him alive enough to profit from his lesson." Genedios, meanwhile, remarks, "It was a midsummer night, the moon was full, and I had to travel on the open road. They were in a grove, dancing for the holiday, and my heart nearly broke to see such beauty and joy. For a moment my heart was light again. Then I was noticed, and they, perhaps thinking my robe was a holy habit, thought to play me some of the worst mischief they could. When things grew too dangerous, I was forced to call on my own powers to shield myself, which drove them off. They like the Fae. They're neat. They're interesting. They cure the banality of having to travel and hide and run, and it's good little bit of levity for the very lonely life of Salubri.
It's another ally that you don't realize you have.
Yes, but they're good when you have them.
And this was before the Inquisition happened. So, when the book was written, so they don't mention hunters, but I'm pretty sure the concept of hunters would upset them, especially the hunters like the Church of Saint Leopold and Vengenet, who are given their powers by God. And the Salubri are thinking, well, is that going to be a conflict for us? Because we tried our best to be vampires of God, but does that mean we haven't tried hard enough?
Yep. It could be, or it could mean that, that Cain was completely wrong from the start of things, and they realized that, maybe we aren't who we think we are, even though we can do what we know we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But will that change anything? That'd be going back to the idea of finding Saulot in Romania and talking to him and explaining to him the whole Church of Saint Leopold. Would that turn him over to the side of evil, or would he do what you said and realize that, wow, if it's gotten so bad that God is giving regular people, regular mortals, the power to fight us, then perhaps we have been failing and we need to mend our ways. And that could be something that you do in that game. I feel like you could have a whole campaign about convincing Saulot to go one way or the other. That would be a fucking incredible RP campaign.
Haunted Reckoning is a fantastic game with fantastic stories. It's just a shame that just nobody talks about it.
Yes, I would like to get to know more about Haunted Reckoning, because I would love to play Colt during this height at the IAA.
Yeah. Once we finish our Pharaoh series, we are immediately jumping. Well, we're already going to do some changeling stuff, but yeah, we're going to go right into Hunter.
Yep, Hunter would be a lot of fun to play.
Next up,
Mortals.
They have a little bit of relationship with mortals in here too.
Yeah, I'll glance over that if you want.
Yeah, we can do the gist of it.
Yeah, so basically, Salubri are healers. They want to continue to shelter and talk with mortals. They act as watchmen, as nuns, as sages. They don't fraternize with people out of any longing for wanting to be mortal again. They just do it to kind of fit in a little bit. There is a measure of security hiding amongst mortals, and that cannot be understated. Having neighbors is a very good way to stay alive, and they are very easy to bargain with. Especially if you're a healer cast, because then you can help a mortal family, and then have them come over and, let's say, work on your house during the daytime when you're day resting, or they'll give you a place to stay for a short bit because they know you can help. It's just a good little survival tip, really.
And if you want to heal people, you gotta hurt them. You gotta get blood. I mean, there's no way you can just heal and only heal with the Salubri. You're going to go into torpor if you do that.
Yes.
And they know this. There are feeder types in Vampire 5th Edition. The Consensualist and the Osiris are the only two types that you would see in a Salubri, where they want the people that they're draining blood from to know that they're a vampire. A Salubri that's going to feed on you trusts you. They know that they've probably helped you before, and they know that you like them, and they're going to spell out the details. They're going to tell you that, yes, I am a vampire. Yes, I do need to drain your blood, but I will not do it unless you give me permission to. And if I'm going to continue doing my miracles, I need blood from you.
Hence why... Good.
Typically, the answer is yes whenever a Salubri does that.
Yeah. Hence why Saulot always asked somebody he found was brilliant before he embraced them. He didn't just embrace people because he could embrace them. He is like, your knowledge parting this world would be a terrible loss for everybody. Let me give you the ability to continue to spread your knowledge forever. I feel like he was the arch-consensualist when it came to feeding types. However,
Compare that
Go
to Arakel, who just embraced her boyfriends, and then the minute she broke up with them, well, there you go, there's an elder walking around. What's he going to do now?
Yes. So, that will also... that's another reason why playing a Salubri is hard mode, because this basically forces you to be to take the flaw masquerade breacher.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting to see a Salubri be played. Share some Salubri stories with us, by the way.
What?
The commenters.
Yes, please. If you've played a Salubri, tell us all about it, because after hearing the history and talking about the relationships, they're a really fucking cool clan. Okay.
And let's talk about the thing that everybody likes the most about them, Valerin.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we are going to their piece de resistance of their disciplines. So Valerin is a warrior's discipline, holding from knights when warriors Salubri acted as noble fighters and kindred knights. The discipline is applicable to modern knights, but Salubri Antitribu put it to decidedly more vicious ends. We're going to go through 5 levels, the first 5 levels of both the warrior and watcher caste Valerin. So starting with the warrior caste Valerin, first you have Sense Vitality. So, a healer learns a subject's illnesses to cure them. The Salubri Antitribu, however, learn how close to death a target is, so that they may hasten the process. System: the Salubri must touch the target to see how close it is to death. He must make a perception plus empathy roll at difficulty 7. One success on this roll identifies a subject as mortal, vampire, ghoul, or other creature. 2 successes reveal how many health levels of damage the subject has suffered. 3 successes tell how full the subject's blood pool is if a vampire, how many blood points they have left in their system if a mortal or blood-bearing form of life. 4 successes reveals any diseases in the subject's bloodstream. A player may opt to learn the information yielded by a lesser degree of success, however. For example, a player who accumulates 3 successes may learn whether or not a subject is a vampire as well as the contents of their blood pool. Alternatively, each success on the roll allows the player to ask the storyteller one question about the subject's health or health levels. Was he drugged? Are his wounds aggravated? Are valid questions. Did the Saulot do this? Or what did the lupine who attacked him look like? Are not. So it's like playing 20 questions with Sense Vitality. It's like you can ask, what did this to him, but you can't find out who or what attacked him. You can only find out his immediate condition, which is still very useful.
It's like Speak with Dead in D&D.
Yes.
But the person's alive.
Speak with Ill is what we're at.
Yeah. Speak with Not Quite Dead.
Yeah. Additionally, at the cost of 1 blood point, the Salubri may use empathy for a roll instead of medicine. Yeah. So pretty useful first level discipline there. Moving on to that, we have Anesthetic Touch. That does exactly what you think it does. Salubri Antitribu can ameliorate a subject's pain, allowing him to bolster a ghoul's effectiveness in combat. This power can also put a mortal to sleep, which has obvious applications for escaping human scrutiny, though the Fury is probably just as likely to kill the mortal in question. System: if the subject is willing to undergo this process, the player spends a blood point and makes a willpower roll at difficulty 6 to block the subject's pain. This allows the subject to ignore all wound penalties for 1 turn per success. A second application of this power may be made once the first has expired, at the cost of another blood point and willpower roll. If the subject is unwilling for some reason, the player must make a contested willpower roll against the subject at difficulty 8. To put a mortal to sleep, the same system applies. The mortal sleeps for 5 to 10 hours, whatever is his normal sleep cycle, and regains 1 temporary willpower point upon awakening. Sleeps peacefully, does not suffer nightmares or the effects of any derangements while asleep. He may be awakened normally or violently. Kindred, including Salubri himself, are unaffected by this power. The corpse-like bodies are too tied to death. So, with this, you could basically cast sleep on somebody, or for ignoring pain. Yeah, this is basically the Werewolf Arun gift ignore pain.
It's also a good way to fix a masquerade breach in case somebody saw you do something. And you as a Salubri, you can't bring yourself to kill them, so just put them to sleep. And when they wake up, they might think, what the hell happened last night?
Yeah.
Did I see what that I saw was that a dream?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. The power of self-doubt.
I'm going to skip Arduring the Sickness. I'm going to go straight to Burning Touch. I feel like, again, that's another one that just does exactly what the hell you think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I'll go over the system real quick. You spend a blood point to activate the power. Each blood point reduces the victim's dice pool by 2 while the Fury is in contact with a victim. The power is often used to interrogate or torture, wearing down the subject's resistance and rendering much more tractable. Yeah, so you basically just have burning hands from 5e.
Yeah, you pull that out, and if I'm right, that's superficial damage, right?
It actually does not inflict damage at all. It just works to, like, quite literally, it'll burn, but it won't leave a mark. It won't do damage.
Right.
Which makes it good at torture.
Yeah, we're not dealing damage yet, but now this is where you get into that soul-bending power.
Yes.
Because you're creating a soul flame that's burning the soul. It's not going to destroy it, but this is horrible pain that you're going into. This is like you came out of the hospital off of surgery, and instead of pulling you off your pain medicine bit by bit, they just took you off of it entirely, and you start going through both the withdrawal and the pain at the same time.
Yeah, they just rip the IV out of you, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, level 4, Armor of Cain's Fury. The Salubri Antitribu is surrounded by a shining crimson halo. This phantom armor protects the vampire against most physical injury, as well as against Rotrek.
Frenzy.
Yes. System. The player spends 1 blood point and rolls stamina in melee difficulty 7. For each success, the character gains 1 point of armor protection against bashing and lethal damage, to a maximum of 5 points of protection. Additionally, for every 2 successes rolled, she gains an additional die to resist Rotrek or Frenzy from the effects of the battle, but not fire or sunlight. This power works for 1 scene. So you have just a whole extra layer of protection depending on how well you roll. This makes stamina a very, very high demand ability or skill for you to put your XP into.
But wait, there's more.
Is there?
The warrior and healer Salubri have fortitude as a base discipline.
I beg your fucking pardon?
Combine the 2 disciplines together, and you've got a Salubri that's walking around with at most 10 levels of armor in combat.
Yes, if you roll well enough on that stamina and melee roll, and then combine that with fortitude, you are basically indestructible.
To say what that would look like in our werewolf game, Grim Getafenris, with his Razor Claws, would only be able to deal 1 point of damage to him per attack, while everyone else just could not damage him at all.
Yes. So that against the Salubri, we would be in some dire straits.
Against multiple of them, that's a fight you wouldn't be able to win.
Yes, absolutely. Rank 5, Vengeance of Samuel. The Salubri Antitribu strikes his foe with superhuman accuracy and strength, as his third eye opens and changes to a furious icy blue. Some Furies invoke the names of the ancient Salubri warriors, while others simply close their normal eyes and let Samuel guide their hands. System. This power costs 3 blood points. That's very expensive. Any single attack made by the vampire automatically hits the target as mystic forces guide the blow. Attacks made in this manner may not be dodged, though they may be blocked, parried, and soaked as normal. The blow strikes as if the Salubri Antitribu had succeeded with all of his dexterity in melee or brawling dice pool, which makes for significant damage. This power may be used only once per turn, and only then the Salubri Antitribu's sole action is the attack. Additionally, this power does not work for ranged weapons, only bare hands or melee. So, if you are sick and goddamn tired of somebody, you can close your eyes, let the third eye open, burn 3 blood points. You're going to be very hungry after this, and if you're low, you have to roll for it, which, unless you're also stacking it with Armor of Cain's Fury, might descend into Rotrek as well.
Yes.
But if that lands and they fuck up their soak roll, you will eviscerate somebody.
It's that. It really is the high risk, high reward attack.
Yep, this is a Hail Mary discipline right here.
Yeah, or even if your attack messes up, you've got your Zamichi friend right around the corner to finish it off for you.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm seeing a game materialize like a Sabbat game with a Salubri. So you got a Salubri, you got a Harvester of Souls, you have a Samichi, you have 3 good friends.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a neat campaign. Now I'm thinking about it. Moving on from that, we're not going to do any of the higher level ones. We're going to move on to the Watcher cast. That is the healers. Starting off with our rank 1 discipline, Sense Cycle. Rather than diagnosing the sick and dying, the nascent third eye of the Watcher sees the cycle of life entirely. They see the ebb and flow of lives in the streets, not the vitality locked within veins and organs. The Watcher experiences waking visions that alter her perception of the world around her, leaving her prone to seeing dire omens and auspicious portents in the smallest event. When she focuses, these visions resolve into incredible personal insight. System. The Salubri instinctually realizes when she's in the presence of a character or event that is significant to her future, and the narrative as determined by the storyteller. Sense Cycle automatically informs the Salubri of potentially hostile encounters in the immediate future, ensuring she'll only be encountered unaware in locales unfamiliar to her. If she spends 1 willpower point and rolls Perception and Enigmas or Empathy at difficulty 7, she may glean omens and visions of the person in question. Each success allows the player to ask the storyteller a question regarding the target, such as his public identity and role in society, if he is hostile or could become so, and for another success under what circumstances, or one psychological weakness he possesses. Basically, you get a there's a 4th level D&D spell. Divination is basically what this is. While divination allows you to call on a deity to gain insight on a certain situation, this just lets you do it, basically. Depending on the number of successes will give you the most accurate representation of what the situation will look like. So if you are really unsure of where you're going or what you need to do, Sense Cycle is there to guide the way.
Go. That you really did say everything I have to say about that.
Yes. I'm getting good at this whole podcasting thing. Okay. Rank 2, Peaceful Touch. Watchers deal in knowledge, but knowledge threatens the most powerful of men. The brutal nights during the Wolf of Chin's purges are still fresh in the minds of the elders. Healing wounds after they occur is miraculous, but greater miracles lie in calming the bloodlust that comes with violence. System. The Watcher spends a blood point and a willpower point, and touches a foe hostile to them. For 3 turns, the target's difficulty to strike the Salubri increases by 2 to a maximum of 9. If the target is a vampire, she sees the difficulty of Rotschreck or frenzy rolls decrease by 2, making it easy for them to retain themselves. The Salubri may not use this power on himself. Knowing Gift of Sleep or Morphean Blow increases the duration for 2 turns to a maximum of 7. So, could you explain to me Morphean Blow real quick?
Morphean Blow?
Yes.
All right. So pulling this up for you.
Yep.
Making sure I'm seeing this right.
Yep.
All right. Morphean Blow, word to Valerin. So Gift of Sleep, no, you don't see it. All right, with a touch, a Salubri can put a living being to sleep. Okay, so it's anesthetic touch by
Gift
another
of Sleep.
name.
We talked about that.
Yeah. So it's very similar to Morphean Blow is pretty much the same, but the Warrior cast has it.
This is a better version of Quell the Beast, is what it is.
Yes.
Yep, like a much better version.
Eventually, it's going to shut down a combat encounter because you just won't be able to hit the guy.
Yeah, which will be really frustrating for your DMs. So if your DM's putting you against some fuck shit, Peaceful Touch. Okay. The only issue is I don't think this will work on a drone, so you're kind of fucked there.
Yeah, because it doesn't really think now, does it?
Exactly. Same thing. Would it work on a worm creature though? That's the big
Yes.
question. Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So you could quite literally child a guy your way out of this shit. And like we said, that there is a possibility that the Children of Gaia and Salubri will work together.
Fingers crossed that it will one day happen.
Yes. Rank 3, Pariah's Caress. Watchers must contend with the Wanque, other vampires who do not subscribe to the idea of the lineage of Cain, and stranger beings such as mages. They learned
Quai-Gen.
What?
Quai-Gen.
Yes.
Yeah.
They learned long ago that the best defense lies in misdirection. If enemies are looking at someone else, they aren't looking at the Salubri. With this power, a watcher may charge her blood with the combined hatred and attention of all her foes, and then transfer that animosity to another with a bloody touch. System. Character spends a blood point, which wells up under her fingertips, touches the victim, smearing the blood on them, possibly requiring a stealth roll. Then the player must roll Manipulation and Empathy at difficulty 7. Each success extends the power's duration for one evening. The difficulty of the target's social rolls increases by 1 as he finds himself within a miasma of annoyance and suspicion. Even mundane or positive acts draw significant negative attention, inspiring jealousy and causing every flaw to be scrutinized. That's just a dick move, but I think that's funny as shit. It's like, wow, things are getting kind of hot. Bro, look, I think I saw that kid doing meth. It's literally John Connor's friend in Terminator 2 is what he tried to do.
Yeah. Just
That's funny as shit. I love that.
The Watchers have very unique powers now. I like what
I think I like the Watcher cast better than the Warrior cast.
Yeah, because the Warrior cast is practical, but the Watchers you get more creative ideas with.
Yes. If you want to be a dick, play a Watcher. Okay, rank 4, Peacemaker. This is a long one, so bear with me. Watchers are arbiters and negotiators, dealing with hostile supernatural beings on behalf of all Cainites. Keeping the peace is paramount. With this power, out-of-control tempers find restraint, and bitter arguments are reduced to differences of opinion. No few healers have strived to learn this power. Many simply believe it to be more advanced valor in effect rather than a tool of the mysterious Watchers. System. The player spends 2 willpower points to erect the Peacemaker aura, which must be inside a chamber no larger than a ballroom. The Salubri's third eye opens but sheds no light. The aura lasts for as many turns as he has dots in his road rating or until he leaves the area. Though once used, tempers rarely surge again. The Peacemaker aura is not a numbing or hypnotic effect, but more clearing one's head from the distractions of anger. Those under the power's effect are more inclined to talk out of a dispute than reach for the sword. Even Bruja or similarly rage-prone characters find it hard to lose their tempers. The aura mitigates such weakness, and they roll against frenzy as normal. Anyone wishing to insult someone or attack under Peacemaker must roll willpower at difficulty of the Salubri's road or hesitate. This occurs even in the midst of an active battle, wherein all participants must roll each turn to continue hostilities until the duration expires. This applies to the Salubri as well. The aura must be raised in good faith and cannot be used to create an ambush, though nothing stops the Salubri from healing allies in case things go south. This is insanely useful. If you just need a fucking pause button, shit's getting out of hand, Peacemaker is the way to go. The only issue is you need to make sure that you have willpower for this, because that's 2 willpowers, and you need to keep rolling those in order to keep that duration going. The longer you can keep it going, the easier it is to either talk your way out of a fight or heal up your allies in case you know that this isn't going to last.
Once again, I think Peacemaker itself, this gives you enough ideas. And yeah, it explains what all it can do. So
yes,
bombs away with that power.
Yep, I'm really loving the Salubri Watcher powers. They're really incredible. Rank 5, Soul's Breath. This is a secret of the Watchers. The curse of Cain to subsist on blood and bitter ashes is a lie. Progression of the soul allows one to draw out the sanguine humor that floats within the lungs and the vitality of will in the breath. It's a meager draft, but one can sup one's fill from a crowd with none the wiser. With the breath comes power, all flowing to the Watcher. System. Salubri must be facing a victim within speaking distance. He rolls intelligence and occult at difficulty 6, though this may increase or decrease. Difficulty 4 with a kiss. Difficulty 9 for shouting across the room. Success on the roll allows the Salubri to sup 1 quote-unquote blood point per turn, maximum duration of his success, from his victim's breath. The victim rarely knows what's happening to them, experiencing the loss as a moment of discomforting weakness. She loses 1 health level per point of quote-unquote blood as if he'd fed from her. The Salubri may divide his success amongst multiple targets in range to draw in more breath per turn, rapidly draining a crowd of breath and continuing on. Breath does not state like blood. He may only use this power for a number of nights equal to his road rating before needing to physically drink blood. Supernatural creatures targeted by this discipline lose both blood and part of their willpower, or part of their power. Each success on the roll activates the soul's breath, carries both a blood point and concurrent level of damage, and robs the supernatural being of 1 point of her power pool. Cainites have the vitae rendered inert, lupines lose gnosis, etc. Translated to the Salubri as a point of willpower. At storyteller's discretion, this theft provides an excellent justification for the purchase of out-of-clan disciplines or supernatural merits. You can steal gnosis from a werewolf with this. That
you can steal
is terrifying.
From a changeling.
You can steal glamour as well, yes.
Yeah, and conviction from a hunter.
And arret from a mage.
Well, not that, because
Not
it's a
arret?
permanent rating. But,
Okay.
yeah, but quintessence would.
Quintessence.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is what they need to use to build their foci.
Yes.
But here's where this gets scary. The strategy for this is that the Salubri Watcher comes equipped with Obfuscate. If you get that high enough, you become invisible, inaudible, no heat coming off of your body, no sound from your footsteps. So the best way to do this is to turn invisible, keep using this, and eventually win by war of attrition while everyone struggles to look for you.
Yes. So the Watcher build accidentally turns into one of the most brilliant stealth builds in the game.
I think this really does outdo the Nosferatu, in my opinion.
I really think it does. The Soul's Breath is fucking terrifying. Yeah, that's wild. And that is all we're going to talk about. What's up?
The more creative you think with these powers, the better and better the applications are. That's
another thing I really love about this. Like, there's a lot of ways to use your powers. Uniquely. I need to think of more things to do with Tyler because I keep just lighting shit on fire and healing people. Like, I keep using him like a cleric in D&D 5e because I typically play a cleric.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to think of some new things to do with him. But I feel like reading what other werewolves and what other vampires can do kind of helps me think outside the box there.
Because I've told you the best spell in D&D 5e is Prestidigitation because of all the different applications that spell has.
Yeah.
And how creative thinking, you can go so many different places with it.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
This is a system that is made for creative thinking.
Yes. My sister is playing an Arcane Trickster Rogue in our Storm King's Thunder game, and her character, Roken, uses Prestidigitation for everything. Dries us off when we're on the river, cleans off our cooking supplies when we're on the road, makes us smell nice when we have to appear presentable in front of somebody, makes somebody else shit themselves if they're being shitty, standard shit like that.
And I think it stands out to the system too that Lore by Night made a video where he ranked the vampire disciplines, and he put Fortitude at dead last on that list. And the reason why is because Fortitude, it's so clear-cut what that power does. It increases your soak, it increases your armor rating, that's all it does. The less creative your application, the worse the discipline is, like practical effects aside.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this is why gangrels are not as huge of a threat in Vampire. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you have animalism, but Ravnos and Nosferatu have animalism. Do Nosferatu have animalism?
Yes, and
Yeah,
Zumichi do too.
that's what I thought. They have it, and they use it better with the other disciplines that they have. The Gangrel really just
Mm,
have, fortitude, protean, and animalism. That's about it.
yeah, which is why they tend to really underperform in combat, but make for pretty good spies.
Yes. This is why I eventually made Colt into a ranged build, because it makes sense with his character, both in his IAA and him being a veteran. He's going to use guns because he knows that he uses guns, but the Protean also gives him an edge in hand-to-hand combat, which he did break that one Church of St. Leopold's guy's neck
Mhm.
with an overwhelming success, which is weird
And you
because I
look,
rolled like shit whenever I play him.
and then you look at the rest of the disciplines too, where in terms of disciplines that's going to decide your build, how it starts off. Every Salubri starts off with Valerin. The healers and warriors have fortitude, the watchers have obfuscate. They also all have auspex.
They all have aspects.
Auspex, the power that takes no blood points to use and has tons of creative and practical applications.
Yeah, the Salubri are kind of fucking busted.
Yeah, there's no issue that the Salubri doesn't have an answer for.
Yeah.
The only thing I could see them lacking in is damage, but at the same time, they have ways to get around that with Valoran. I mean, maybe you want to pick up Potence, maybe you want to do that, but it's not essential.
Yeah. Or maybe if you feel like your melee combat isn't cutting it, you take Protean as well.
Mm. And now we get to talk about how to play a Salubri and what one would look like with spots mixed.
Yes.
Alright. The way they see Saulot today, it's the same way that Christians and Jews see Moses. Saulot's not an object of worship, but he is somebody you should model yourself after. This was the smartest man in the room in every scene he was in. And the modern day Salubri, if they're independent, is going to try to be the faith healer the best they can. You watched Elfen Lied and you hated it, and your opinion is wrong for not liking Elfen Lied. But it's essentially what you didn't watch the OVA of it. They had a bonus episode on the DVD where it's like detailed how Lucy got captured, and it's a scene where she's using her vectors to entertain a homeless girl that she's traveling with. And then after revealing her powers, says, okay, this is what I am, I'm the science beast. And the girl says, I still love you regardless, you're the only friend I have. That's the kind of relationship you have with everyone you come across as a Salubri. You're
Yep.
looking for broken people, you're looking for hurt people, you're looking for the sick. And you, by healing them, start a bridge for being their best friend or being their teacher. And you could go down an evil route and use that for your advantage, but you're typically doing this out of altruism.
Yes. To quote Ringo
And
Starr, you get by with little help from your friends.
yeah, the humans that are following you are devout to you, and if you ghoul them, they would be very thankful for that ghouling process. It's kind of funny too that Valoran is like a healer ability when at the same time you can just ghoul a human and that will heal them. But at the same time, maybe you don't want to do that because ghouling will blood bind them to you. It's like mind control, and you notice that the Salubri have no mind control powers, period.
No.
Presence isn't on here. Dominate isn't on here. I would not see either of them taking that.
Further still, the Salubri, it actually mentions in the book that Salubri technically don't like having to ghoul people. It's like how they see it is they see one either is or is not a Cainite, and ghouling is a perversion of the dichotomy between mortal and immortal.
Probably why they didn't talk to Ventru, because he's the guy who came up with the idea. More than
Exactly.
likely. in terms of the Sabbat, be the Crusader. Have the burning vengeance in you. You see like the Punisher or Billy Butcher from The Boys. That's the level of conviction that you have.
Yes.
The
You understand.
Camarilla,
Yeah.
the Camarilla will burn under your watch. You are going to go in, no matter what builds you have, even as the healer, you are looking to smoke as many Camarilla as possible.
Yes. From your understanding, you know exactly what Tremere did to Saulot. You know exactly what happened to your people. You felt the psychic scream, same as him. And you know exactly who is at fault. And right now, you don't trust anybody around you. But at the same time, you don't have much of a choice. You need these people to help you get your revenge on the Sabbat. Or on the
I would also
Camarilla.
start binge watching early 2000s superhero movies like the Sony X-Men series and 2003's Daredevil to get into like the Salubri headspace for a Sabbat game.
Yes.
Start listening to a bunch of Seether and what else is like a good like moody new metal band? Like,
3 Days
want to
Grace.
I want to say Linkin
The
Park, but they're a little too upbeat.
Deftones. Linkin Park.
Yeah, yeah, Deftones, Evanescence.
I should know more moody. Fuck, definitely should know. Disturbed, I guess.
Yeah, Disturbed. Oh yeah, absolutely Disturbed. Like listen to like the Sound of Silence cover by Disturbed.
Listen to the most edgy 2000s new metal you can possibly find. Not Results May Vary by Limp Bizkit. That album blows.
Yeah, you will get into the perfect mindset.
Funny story about the Limp Bizkit Behind Blue Eyes video. Yes. I don't remember the name of the actress who was it that Fred Durst had on the set for that. I don't remember her name. John knows exactly what I'm fucking talking about. Let me look it up because I don't remember.
Oh, poor Fred Durst. Oh.
Behind Blue Eyes Limp Bizkit video. I want to know who that was. What movie? Oh, Halle Berry. Yeah. So, Fred Durst had the biggest crush on Halle Berry and had her on for the Behind Blue Eyes music video. That was a cover of a song by The Who. And in the music video, Fred Durst, has to give Halle Berry a kiss. Halle Berry thought that Fred Durst was just an asshole, which kind of fair. So
Yeah,
in order to spite him on the music video, she literally ate like a clove of garlic right before that scene. So when he went in for the kiss, he just got a mouthful of garlic from her. And it was reported by one of the stagehands that he literally walked off the set and threw up. So props to Halle Berry for getting one over on Fred Durst.
Fred Durst is a Cainite. There you go.
I mean, he does have a lot of connections with the fucking Scientology. That makes sense.
Yeah, he joined the Church.
He joined the Camarilla. No. That actually opens up a good floor for a discussion. What vampire clan would Fred Durst be? Would he be a Toreador?
Now the Toreador like pretty stuff.
Yeah, it's
he
true.
Did make pretty music.
He's too ugly for that.
Part of me wants to say Bruja.
Yeah, he writes angry enough music. He'd be a good Bruja.
Yeah.
That'd be funny as shit.
Let's make some splats.
Yes.
First of all, you said Children of Gaia. That's a good idea.
Yes, the Children of Gaia had, the Salubri like them because they carry a lot of great knowledge. They're very theocratic. They might not worship Jesus or God, but their theology is something to be studied in order for the Salubri to improve themselves. So if you want a really long-winded what?
I don't know about that. They literally named themselves the Anointed Ones.
That's true. But
yeah, for camp.
At the same time, if you want like a really long-winded RP session where the storyteller plays a child of Gaia and the Salubri wants to know more ways to heal people. Throw a child Gaia in there, absolutely, and have the Salubri, explain about the whole story of Saulot to the child of Gaia in order to get them to understand the plight of the Salubri, and try and carve a path for other Salubri that might be around there. Good little side quest there.
When I read that for the first time too, I thought they were talking about the Black Furies the first time I read that passage.
I thought so,
and
but no, the Black Fury would have just killed them on sight because they're a leech.
it's because they hunt the worm, they look for the worm, and the Black Furies don't like vampires, but I think a female Salubri could make a case for having their life spared by the Black Furies.
More than likely, we said in the Black Furies episode that a lot of Black Furies went to the nunneries in order to preserve themselves during the Inquisition. And more than likely, the Salubri were there as well, because some female Salubri were working as healers there for the church. They're very devout. They're a very devout clan of vampires. They would have been working side by side during that time period, and they might have not even known it. Well, actually, they certainly would have known it, but that's another thing you could do, is if you want, you could have like a Salubri and Lasombra and Black Furies and Children of Gaia all sort of playing a game of internal politics within the Catholic Church. If you want to do like a Renaissance period game, that'd be an incredible political thriller there.
I'm also thinking for a Fianna, you have a scene where they encounter a Salubri. It's gotta be one-on-one for the fight for it to work. And the Fianna comes in, you have like either a brawl build or a melee build. And they're going in, they're fighting the Salubri, and then they realize as the fight's going on, a lot of that Salubri's moves are mirroring what the Fianna learned in combat training. And then the Fianna starts thinking, well, how does the Salubri know all my moves? The Salubri knows, and it's because Skatok was a member of the Salubri who taught the Fianna and the White Howlers how to fight.
Yeah, and then that opens up the whole floor for discussion. That's like, wait a minute, how the fuck do you know all this? And it's like, well, we taught you.
Yeah.
I beg your fucking pardon. You did what?
Yeah.
That would be a really neat plot point. I'd love to see that.
Who else? The Shadow Lords, absolutely. They would scoop up a Salubri and say, you work for us forever.
Yeah, and that they would fall into the same thing with the Shadow Lords that they were trying to avoid with the Lasombra, and then they're wondering, that'd be a good like conflict there. It's like you have a Salubri captured by a Shadow Lord, and then a Lasombra manages to come in and be like, "Hey, these guys aren't treating you very well. Why don't you come work for me?" And then it's a catch-22. It's like you get enslaved by the Shadow Lords, you think this Lasombra can help you out, you find that Lasombra starts using you, another Shadow Lord shows up and is like, wait a minute, weren't you working for us? Yes, and I was kidnapped by this Lasombra. And then you go back, and then you're enslaved again, and it's just a vicious cycle. And you have to find a way to break it out.
Vampire trafficking.
Yes.
The other werewolf group I could see working with them would be the Uktena. And that's because there's a lot of Salubri that are still alive in Africa. That tribe's eating well in Africa, the Salubri.
Yes.
And once again, it's because of how the Libron operate. It's that it's a very loose hierarchy where a lot of vampires just tend to go about their merry way, doing whatever they want, forming alliances with who they want, having wars with each other. And the Uktena, if that Salubri is black, why not bring him in and have him heal our kinfolk? Why not do that?
Yeah, and it's like, oh, hey, you're an indigenous individual with a lot of incredible powers. We have a lot of incredible powers, and a lot of people that need healing after fighting the forces of evil. You seem to like fighting the forces of evil, too. How about we both fight the forces of evil?
Given how closely they talk to the dream speakers, absolutely.
Yep.
The Red Talons, the Kuchu and Kudu, absolutely not. That's not going to happen.
No.
Yep. And you would hope as the Salubri that they would kill you faster because I've looked up like the different videos. Um, an African painted dog doesn't kill you as fast as a wolf does.
Really?
Yeah, it's that the dogs maul you to death. The wolf goes for the throat.
Yeah, the wolf just wants to eat.
Yeah. And it's a fucking brutal death when African painted dogs get a hold of you.
Oh yeah.
And next up, Mage. Fuck the Hermetics.
Definitely.
That's your antagonist.
Yes. We talked about that maybe the Dream Speakers they'd be cool with.
Celestial Chorus, absolutely.
Yes.
And
I mean, you had I keep forgetting how to pronounce her fucking name.
Freya Sanders?
No, Raziel or
Or-
Raziel.
Yeah, Raziel.
Raziel. Yes. Like we theorized earlier in the video, she might have been like a proto-celestial celestial choir.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Given
did.
that
What if
a
you want to
sinking
take that
healer.
idea and run with it and say that holy shit, she was a proto-celestial choir or a celestial choir member? That'd be a great mystery to unravel there.
it also you can tie it in with the Akashic Brotherhood and the Euthanatos, depending on how religious they are in regards to Buddhism and Hinduism.
Yes, or if you find a mage capable of time travel, and say you
Mhm.
want to try and stop, if you want to stop Tremere from Diablo rising Saulot, in order to save him and allow him to come back from his torpor naturally, and then you get to see the effects of the world in real time. You have a cool Back to the Future plot.
Yeah, you go to the Hermetics and say, "Would you like to go back in time and prevent your group's biggest fuck up?"
Yep, and you just Zawardo this shit away.
Mm. Who's next? Changelings.
We said earlier that a lot of the Salubri really like the Fae and wish they'd show up more, but their appearance as holy men always seems to drive them off or force them to attack them.
It's because of how many people fall asleep in church that going to a church is seen as banal, so the Fae don't like it.
Yeah.
And would try, but I'm pretty sure the religious doctrine of the Salubri would eventually put them off.
Yeah, more than likely. I feel like that'd be a very short-lived alliance, if any.
And
Although
the Unseelie would be an arch enemy of that game.
yeah. Although I feel like it would be a weird relationship, say like a Slua with a Salubri, because the Slua can cure wounds with tears.
Mm-hmm.
And so the
And they-
Salubri would be like, well, you seem to scare people a lot, but you also have this incredible healing ability. What's up with that?
Mhm.
And then you have to slowly build a mutual understanding between a Slua and a Salubri.
Mm-hmm. Along with you can have a little adventure happen where, say, it's the one group who's not that concerned with banality, the Knockers, and they want to say, "We want to use your Valerin and try making a machine with it, and see if we can help give you like a little healing device to go along with you, or you teach us how to do Valerin, we replicate it with our glamour and technology, and then we have our own little healing device that we carry around."
Yeah, that'd be a fun little story there.
Yeah.
They build an
And next up-
MRI.
The
Yep.
Just don't hit
The
any metal
rates.
before you go into it.
rates.
Okay, the Salubri are scared of wraiths. They see
Yes.
any wraith as a failure on their behalf.
And the ones I'm thinking of in particular are the Skeletal Legion, the Wraiths who have died of sickness, the Grim Legion who have died of violence, the Penitent Legion who have all committed suicide, and not the Emerald, not the Iron, not the Legion of Paupers. I'm missing one. I'm missing a
the
Legion.
Faustians?
No, that's demons.
Oh, right.
See, right the Oblivion, because if it's No, the Penitent Legion died of mental illness. It's the Silent Legion who died of suicide.
right. But I
Yeah. So
mean,
so Gamal.
any of them would be a decent campaign there to figure out. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, is there something like there's nothing I can do for you? You're dead already. But is there something I can do to help one of your family members or somebody that you knew? Better yet, like it said that a number. Well, actually, no, they don't have souls, so that wouldn't work. I was thinking like maybe they meet a Bruja, like the spirit of somebody that was a Bruja, but like no, they already don't have a soul.
I'm thinking you can have a Salubri team up with a member of the Iron Legion, the guys who died of old age. But even when you're old age, you don't always come to peace with death. You talk with that Wraith and he says, I want somebody to take care of my family. And knowing that my family is going to be okay, I can pass on. The Salubri says, can do, slowly starts making themselves a family friend. And then once the Salubri's like healing them, keeping them alive with Valerin, and once again, vampires having connections to the underworld, starts providing for them, then the Iron Legionnaire moves on.
Yeah. That'd be a nice little uplifting plot for the World of Darkness.
And then with the Emerald Legion, well, it's a case of shit. I can't do anything for you.
Fair.
I'd love to help you, but you're cursed to an eternal life of an office job. I can't help you.
Yeah.
And you died from an accident. I couldn't have prevented that.
Yep. When it's nobody's fault, there's nothing really you can do about that.
Hunters, where once again that whole paradox we mentioned before. Did this Salubri do enough? Because if there's hunters going around, maybe the answer is no.
Yeah, if the powers are given to them by God, then it's the failure of the Salubri, or it's a shift in God's plan.
But then again, the Church of St. Leopold and the holy fire that they're able to shoot, that only formed in the 14th century. Saulot died in the 11th century. There was a 300-year, maybe 200-year difference between the two. Well, so the existence of hunters probably happened because the Salubri went away.
Yeah, that'd be an excellent point, and that would be a huge turning point in the World of Darkness. It's like all of a sudden, all of these holy orders that get their power from God just start losing their powers. Why? Oh, because this group of vampires, people that we are sworn to kill, started coming back and healing people. What does that mean for us? And then they have this huge identity crisis there. And that could turn them, evil. There's a lot that could go on with that.
And then you also have a very clear-cut antagonist with the Arcanum, who are very, very similar to the Brotherhood of Steel from Fallout, where they hoard occult technology and artifacts. Insist that humanity would be better off if only they had access to that knowledge, and demand the complete extermination of all supernaturals.
Kind of like Dot Yishud from Wolfenstein.
Yes, exactly.
Except Dot Yishud were actually correct in Wolfenstein. It's like it would be better off if this stayed at the bottom of the ocean.
While there are some new supernaturals that want to help, the Arcanum says no. We want a human-only future.
Yeah. I mean, see how that goes.
And then demons.
Well, the Salubri hate the shit out demons.
There is a build in the Salubri book for a demon hunting Salubri, where it gives you an idea of how the warrior caste got their start in doing that. Where you are a holy warrior going out fighting demons. Now, whether these demons are Nefandi, who have transformed themselves, Fomori and Melgen Incarna, or Fallen, is up to debate. But you're fighting the forces of hell that venerate Satan. And you're going out, you're fighting them, and you're winning as a Salubri. You have to be a veteran. You have to have had some sort of interaction with demonic forces before for you to be brought into a Salubri caste as a warrior for that mission.
Yes. Like, you need to have that level of experience. Like we said, they're not as regimented as the Assamites, but they're no fucking slouches. A Salubri warrior can throw down.
And what about Mummy?
That you're gonna have to fill me in on.
Want to get some mummies? Well, you remember the ministry story, Heru?
Yes.
So after he came back as a mummy for the second time, he formed the Shimsu Heru, a group of undead dedicated to the extermination of the ministry and Set's legacy. But then he started figuring out that he wasn't the only mummy. There were other people that used resurrective powers to come back to life. And he starts looking around, and even though Mummy isn't canon, it's something you can add to your World of Darkness game, where there are people that are coming back from the dead, and there's different reasons why they're coming back as revenants.
So you're gonna have a
And
little Mr. Bones campaign there.
you can have a Salubri who failed to heal somebody. They bury them, they give them a nice burial. 10 days later, they see that person walking around again.
I don't want to be buried in the pet cemetery.
You can have that. You can say, "Oh shit, you're alive. How's that possible?" And the mummy says, "I don't know." And then that leads to an investigation of, it's good this person's back, but how did they come back? Can we replicate that power? And if that power is bad, do we need to have our friend die again?
Yeah, that'd be a good one right there. I like that idea.
Along with the Salubri teaming up with the Shimsu Haru in a possible campaign where Set was our friend, but he lost his mind, and he created the worst people morally in vampire society. Even though he was Saulot's best friend for a time, he's pretty much the devil at this point, the same devil that he thought he was going to overtake.
Yes.
And we have to destroy his legacy now.
Yep.
Speaking of which, though, the Salubri would make excellent friends with the Serpents of the Light, come to think of it.
How so?
The Ministry Anti-Tribu.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, so at the end of the day, if you are a seasoned Vampire the Masquerade player, if your party needs a healer, and if the circumstances call for it, that is, you have a Sabbat campaign with either a Harbinger of the Skull or a Zamichi in your party, and you really want a challenge, don't be afraid to play one of the few remaining Salubri. And if you're a storyteller, give the Salubri a little bit of love. They might be hurting in America and Europe, but hey, you never know when you come across a holy healer. So play the Salubri. They are cool as fuck.
So words on my mouth for that collection.
Yes, I've been very talkative this episode, but only because I am thrilled to death at how cool this story is.
And you want to know what we're going to do for our Hanukkah episode?
Regale me.
We're going to do the most anti-Semitic of the vampires, the Tremere.
Seeing as, well, we went over the Salubri, may as well talk about the other side of the story.
Yep, there we go.
Just in time for Hanukkah. Shabbat Shalom.
We get to talk about the most hateful vampire clan.
Yep. Get ready for another age restrictive video for massive amounts of racial
Given that we're going to talk about clan blood brothers in that video, yeah, we're going to have to.
Yeah. That episode's gonna get a little rough. And I thought I had a bad time talking about the Pentex video.
American History X Tremere Edition.
Basically.
Yes.
There's too many Cainites on this block. Too many goddamn Salubri on this block. No. Here's another one. You get a Salubri and a Tremere to play a one-on-one pickup basketball game. Oh man. All right, Clan
Oh.
Salubri. That's about it, fellas. Good night, everybody.
GN.